everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled town board meeting. For those of you who have never attended a town board meeting before, first we will have public hearings, followed by an administrative calendar. There are meeting agendas available in the rear of the pavilion. If you'd like to be heard on any matter, please obtain a slip in the rear of the pavilion and fill it out with the matter that you'd like to be heard on. After the meeting is adjourned, we will remain in session to hear any residents that would like to address the town board on any other matters. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Supervisor Gillen.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman.
Here.
Councilman Diaz-Casino.
I'm here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Here. Councilwoman King-Sweeney.
Here.
Councilman Muscarella.
Here.
I now ask Councilman Muscarella to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we begin, we'd like to say congratulations to Councilwoman Erin King-Sweeney, who ran her first half marathon to promote a worthy cause, so we just give her a round of applause.
Supervisor, I took the garbage out this morning. Do I get a round of applause?
No. All right, Madam Clerk, will you please call our first public hearing?
Proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Belmont.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Supervisor, move the hearing be closed, the item adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Casino.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King-Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you please call our next public hearing?
Proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Belmont, Elmont, Levittown, and Seaford.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Make a motion that the hearing be closed and we vote on the item.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Casino.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King-Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Levittown, North Belmore, and Wantagh.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Supervisor, move that the hearing be closed and the item adopted.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Casino.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King-Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed handicap parking on public streets in East Atlantic Beach, Elmont, Franklin Square, Levittown, Valley Stream, and Wantagh.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and that the item be adopted.
I would like to second that.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Casino.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilwoman King-Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next public hearing, please?
To consider the adoption of the Town of Hempstead's 2019 capital plan and the 2019 to 2023 multi-year capital improvement plan.
I do not have any slips on this public
Supervisor, I'd
hearing.
like to be heard on that. Okay, first of all, I want to thank Supervisor Gillen for putting forth the capital plan. It's a best practices type of scenario where we get to take a look at 5 years going forward with our capital plan. And also we get to look at what we want to do in the coming years specifically this year, next year, and it gives us an opportunity without the crunch of budget time to really take a look at what the needs are throughout the town and in our communities. And with respect to this capital plan, I would move to amend the capital plan at this time to increase the spending on road work in the town of Hempstead from $31.5 million to $36.5 million. As I travel through my district, the number one concern that I get is about road repairs and road work, and I have thought long and hard about this. I this morning spoke with our controller, who indicated that it would not have a negative effect on our budgeting or on our bond rating. The levels of interest rates now are at one of their lowest levels. It's 3% now because of our bond rating to go out and borrow. So, Supervisor, I'm going to move to amend to increase by $5 million the road work for 2019.
Mr. Capabianco, I know that you really were intimately involved in preparing the capital plan, so if you would please come forward, I just want to ask some questions. Certainly, I have heard, I echo Mr. Councilman Wakeman's sentiments, I've heard residents loud and clear that fixing our roads and repairing our crumbling infrastructure is a big priority for everyone throughout the town. We had worked on this capital plan, been very mindful of that, that's why it was a #1 priority in our plan, but I just want to make sure, we have to balance a lot of needs and wants. Our #1 priority was roads, that's where we're making the greatest investment, but to increase this bump, we've been very, very mindful of balancing all our wants with not increasing debt service. So do you feel comfortable that we can make this bump without increasing our debt service?
We would definitely be increasing the debt service. You wouldn't have a choice because you're increasing the amount that you're authorizing. However, the sentiment that was just mentioned about the fact that rates are at extreme lows at this time, we are taking advantage of doing more work and paying less in terms of that debt service right now with the additional borrowing. So it is an advantage at this time as long as rates stay where they are, which you can see the Treasury is projecting that over the next 2 years.
I do see that, and that's why it was very important we started working in December on this plan so we could take advantage of interest rates being low. Councilman Wilson?
Can I ask Mr. Capabianco a question? Mr. Capabianco, my understanding is that the road work that would be increased in 2019 would commence immediately, but we would not be going out to market until 2020, and then we probably would not have our first payment until 2021. Therefore, it's basically a wash, and it wouldn't have a negative impact on our increased indebtedness. Is that correct?
And I'd like to say, Supervisor, I'm very happy that you proposed this, and I'm very happy that we would be able to add, because I have some streets in my district, especially Unionville and Roosevelt, and also Lakeview, that really need work. And we cannot wait, till it gets so bad that we have to really go ahead and do the entire street. So I'm very happy, and we did talk to your office as well as we've spoken to the engineer. This would certainly not cause a problem, and it would really help us so that we can help our residents have better streets. Because that's one of the main problems that I have most of the time when I'm around in my areas.
Okay, so Mr. Capabianco, you feel comfortable that this is something that we can do without causing a negative impact to finances of the town? Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Capabianco?
I just think that at a 3% interest rate, correct? Is that what we are now? Crazy not to do it now while it's so low. If we wait till next year or the following year, who knows what the interest rates will be? We should strike while the iron's hot. There are so many roads. We receive calls in my office all the time with similar roads, almost the same roads all the time. How to get it fixed? This is a no-brainer. I think we all should go through this. Thank you for your input.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Capabianco? Anyone else? Okay. Okay, Madam Clerk, we're now voting on the amendment to the capital plan.
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Bazito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boozy. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
I do not have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Bianca, could you just make room for Ms. Meredith? Thank you.
Meeting Meredith, welcome resident. First of all, I am definitely in favor of this process. It is something that is proactive. It's something that I, for one, who practically lives at my mechanic involvement for all the repairs that I've had to get because of the roads that I travel on my own time and dime. My concern, again, and has been duly noted and recorded on a regular basis, is the involvement of businesses that are veteran-owned minority women with regard to these projects as we're putting this funding in place, and we continue to kind of lack in that arena. And I stand here a little battle-weary in terms of having to question our county legislators on their own lack of diversity and inclusion and questioning their own procurement outreach and still being very dissatisfied with that. And I continue to challenge this town board with regard to the voices that are not being heard for the diverse businesses and thus the opportunities for work that we claim we're trying to create jobs and create work, and we're not doing that. So we're failing on so many fronts, and we wonder why we have zombie homes and dissatisfied voters and lack of participation. So I'm just putting it out there once again, because I know many of you will be showing up in these same communities for their votes and their support, but we don't see them on the rolls for procurement and contracts. And just putting it on the website and putting it on Newsday, not enough. It's not enough. We're not representing the diversity in language, thought, and idea for this township. For this to be the largest and premier township in the country, we're setting a very bad example. So if we're going to do the plan, then make sure that we plan to include everyone.
Can I just interrupt here? I hate to interrupt you, but Mr. Toon, Commissioner Toon, the roads that we're going to be doing, we have already contractors that are doing it. Do we have a mechanism where they have subcontractors? Can we in any way find out if those are veteran-owned businesses, the subcontractors that the contractors are using? Maybe we're already addressing that. I don't know.
What I could say is there is a clause that's in all of our construction contracts for veteran workshop business. I don't want to misdescribe. I guess the town attorney can actually comment on that. A veteran workshop, if they a veteran workshop company, if they bid on a contract and they're within 15% of the lowest bid, they would be awarded the contract. Granted, we haven't had that. We haven't had any of those people actually bid, but there is an incentive there for them to do that, and it's quite attractive.
Is there a way we can outreach to those companies that might be able to, that aren't aware of the bid coming up, like posting at the VFWs and the American Legions? I know you put it in the paper, but is there a mechanism we can?
Yeah, I think that's just marketing through the town. I mean, obviously it's very specialized work. I don't know how many veteran-owned companies do, road construction. But certainly, I guess there's things.
I see them at the VFW. They belly up to the bar and they talk, baseball. They talk about, because they get away from the business and they, and they're looking for work. They're trying to get, like this, whatever they're saying. If we could get them included somehow, even if it's a subcontractor, the contracts that we have, if we can entice them somehow to get a subcontractor that's a veteran-owned business, this would really help these guys out. Because I see them all the time, and they say, how do you work? So,
yeah, I'd be happy to work with your office on coming up with solutions for that. Like I said, there is this clause in the contract, and I don't think it's being utilized to the degree it should be. Maybe it could be better publicized, and I'd be happy to work with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fox, if you would just come up for a minute, you can maybe speak a little bit about the veterans preference that we have in the town.
And Supervisor, I would ask, while he's doing that, if he can talk about minority and women-owned businesses. What is our target currently on our public works projects? 15%?
Well, there's no goal mandated by the town. The money that we have from the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, it's 30%, 15% for women-owned business, 15% for minority-owned businesses. We currently have $60 million in GOZER funding, so that's approximately $10 million that's going towards these minority groups. So we are reaching those goals. Those goals have to be met, otherwise we won't get that funding.
Thank you.
While he's coming, just a point of information, and I know, having known Councilman Dunn for a number of years, the terminology, the generic terminology of those guys, women of color, particularly black women, are the leading military recruits, and they're also the leading startups, but they receive the least in sales receipts. That's nationally. Considering that Long Island has the largest veteran population in New York State, Suffolk County singularly is the largest county as far as veteran population, and Nassau County has upwards of 80,000 veterans on its own. I think, again, it's a disservice to not incorporate that. And while we talk about figures, when we say the minority women piece, generally it's the W piece. So it's largely white women who are the ones who are meeting the goals. They've had hearings even in the state with regard to a lack of actual true inclusion for the minority and women business enterprise program statewide, because I'm working with the New York State Controller with regard to that. So again, I feel like we need to do something that's a little more structural as opposed to, okay, we have something on paper and we're doing the same thing as far as outreach, which is not that.
Thank you. Mr. Fox.
Just to clarify what Doug was talking about, in every contract that we put out, we offer a number of different benefits. One for any local-owned business, we get the 5% differential. So every local company that bids on it, we give them some preference in that, and 5%. For every veteran-owned business, we give them a 7.5% preference. They don't have to be a veterans workshop. And then every veterans workshop gets a 15% benefit on that as well. So every time we get a contract, we do look at all those papers on that. Unfortunately, our current system doesn't give us a way of systemically showing what there is there. There's no mobile system right now. We're looking at a June 10th, I shouldn't say that, June 20th conversion date, which allows us to put down for each one of the vendors what they are. So we can actually quantify and say, yes, we give 2%, 5%, 10% to women, to veterans. We cannot do this now as manual.
Right. So again, if you don't have the resources or the information or the demographics, I know my time is up, but if we can get a $150,000 grant from New York State to study the marsh grass on the South Shore, I think we could try to find some money collectively between the town, the county, and the state to actually study the demographics of the situation and the layout for our veterans and our minority and women businesses in New York State. That's all I have to say.
And I've also, I do have a database of veterans from the MedCom and from corporate itself as well. And what I do is I go through that list. I have all the listing of the veterans, what their specialty is, and anytime there is a offering out there for anything that any veteran can get, I send them specifically it's not just out in the paper or out on the internet. We specifically aim at the veterans on that.
Right.
And the goal will be to, again, look at minority, women-owned. We do have a number of women-owned businesses, because I see that all the time, but I couldn't tell you exactly the percentage.
Right.
But that is one of the ones that we talk about as well. Unfortunately, we don't have the statistics to hand you, and we will have in the future.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a slip from, it looks like Pete Sernaros on this item.
Mispronunciation.
I apologize.
It's fine. My name is Pete Georgios. I'm at 900 Waltham Court, North Belmont. I came in late. I thought you were on item number 4. You were on item number 5?
On item number 5.
Number 5. The only reason that I wanted to speak here is as I have started to get involved with the process of finding out information about some of these capital projects that have been going on. It's very hard to find detailed information and to access the records from the engineering department. I have been complaining about the problem on my street since, I guess, the 80s, on all the administration since then up until now. Now I retired, so I have a little more time to look into it, and I've tried to find information about the projects and the award of contracts, the actual contract itself. Nobody will give me anything.
So let me just interrupt you for a minute. In terms of contracts, we passed transparency legislation last year. So for the first time ever, you can go online to the Town of Hempstead website and you can pull up contracts and you can see all the relevant documents for those contracts.
I looked into this calendar yesterday on my computer. I'm not a techie person and I have a hard time with it. I could not download the budget. All the capital expenditures that you call on this plan, I could not download anything. It was not available.
Is the capital plan on the website?
That's why I'm looking for a hard copy or something, so I can get and look at it and read it.
It's on the website. The capital plan is on the website.
There is no hard copy I can get?
We could provide you with one. Yeah, we could provide you with one, but it's also available online at the website. But
I understand that.
if you see April Smith, can you just raise your hand? She'll give you a copy right there. That lady over there. She'll get your address. Make sure she email you a copy of the capital plan.
Okay, you know what it is because basically the thing is that it's a situation where my street floods every time we get substantial rain. I have pictures, I have videos. I did tell you, I did.
In Belmore, right?
In Belmore, 9 I'm sorry, I'm not used to speaking in the mic. Like I said, I've been complaining about this problem for years and years, and they tell me they looked into it and they passed it over.
So with respect to the roads, we implemented a new system just this year. In the past, the way we would rate roads in terms of reconstruction, and Commissioner, you can come down and correct me if I misspeak, we would have to rely on field people going out and inspecting roads. But for the first time this year, we deployed new technology where we have a truck that actually scans roads and it helps us do our ratings of how the roads are rated in terms of which is a priority to repair. And the Department of Engineering is right now working on a comprehensive list of all the road ratings and when we will schedule the roads that need to be repaired. Is that accurate, Commissioner?
Yeah, that's accurate. That's for road reconstruction projects. We're going to be putting out a large build and pave contract that's going to allow us to basically pave a lot more roads than we normally would for the same amount of money. And using that data, we're going to allow it to filter out the roads that kind of fall into that category where they can be built and paved. But I think what this gentleman's talking about is a drainage issue, so that wouldn't be part of this process, but we are very much aware of it. Unfortunately, it's a very large problem, and it requires a large amount of money, millions of dollars to fix. It's a large drainage issue. Not that we won't fix it, but we need to kind of do it at the right time and balance it against all the other projects we have. So we have a drainage, a comprehensive drainage study that's happening throughout the town, where we're reviewing all of these drainage issues and prioritizing them and coming up with methods to solve each, and we will tackle them. But it is a large $1 million fix, and it's just not something that we can do tomorrow. We need to prioritize against everything else. And
can you make sure that this gentleman's street is incorporated within that study and that we're looking at this area?
Yeah, 100%. It's part of a drainage issue that I'm very aware of.
Okay, thank you.
You know what we have spent, you're in my district, and Patrick, Maureen, myself, and Commissioner Tillman sat separately for about 2 hours and we went over this problem. And this problem has been there for a while, and it really shouldn't have to go through all of this, but it is very expensive. It's not just one road, it's a cluster of roads that have that problem. So like you said, it's going to be very, very expensive to do, and we're trying to find a way to get it done because you shouldn't have to live like that. And we're trying to help you. We are trying to help you.
I understand that, and that's what I want to say for the first time. This gentleman and the support people that he's working with, he's actually answering me and with support. The engineering department, I have been in contact with Jeff Tierney, and he has informed me about this overall evaluation of the flooding issues in the neighborhood. The problem is that, which I understand, it's not going to be done tomorrow, but you know, what I'm complaining about this problem since the 1980s, nobody has looked into this all these years. I was trying to find out, they did a study on my street last year, and the numbers were very similar with a couple of streets around the corner from me, which they're paving now. I would assume, although I wouldn't know, that they did not want to fix it because, like the gentleman says, it involves a lot more money. Although the state gave $30 million to the bouldering to do some kind of a storm drain problem, $30 million. And if the engineering department tells me that there's a whole neighborhood that needs to be done, when I have floods in my street and I cannot go down from Annabrook Road and from North Jerusalem Road and I go around, there's no floods anywhere else. Not one more street has any floods in it except mine.
Can I just
And also,
you did come here late, so
yes.
let me just tell you what we did previously to coming here. The supervisor increased her budget by $3 million yesterday, and we added another $5 million today for road repair. So hopefully that'll move down another road towards you. Also, hopefully, we'll have to see what you said on priority, because there's some really bad roads. And I know yours is bad too, and it was concurred by the commissioner. So I think we're going to see it sooner than later, but I wouldn't say overnight.
Oh no, believe me, I don't
That's what we did pass just before you came in. Another $5 million in addition to the $3 million. That's $8 million more we're going to be doing on roadways. Hopefully you include it.
No, what I'm trying to find out this morning is the details of this thing and the length of the study and how and the steps that we go after that.
So, sir,
I can't let it go anymore.
I understand your frustration, but we're here right now and we are committed to trying to address these issues. I'm sorry that it's taken a while, but right now we're here. This is our commissioner, and if you want to share your information with him, we can follow up with you and provide you information as we get more results back in. Is that right? Does that work?
You can reach out to my office, within the next couple of, I would say within the next month, and we'll have some additional answers as to where it is in the study and in the priority list. We can definitely keep them informed as we proceed.
I would appreciate that, and that's what I'm looking for. They need to be kept in the loop, so I'm not going blind and I'm not frustrated saying nobody's paying attention to this. As a matter of fact, obviously somebody spoke to the engineering firm, NV5, and one of their people, I guess, called me to tell me that for sure they are doing a study in the immediate neighborhood, which to me is an improvement over what I've been getting for the past 30 years.
Well, good. So, Chairman, will you give this gentleman your card so he can get...
I already have him, but I can't talk to him in the office. Only here.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
Hi, my name is Gwendolyn Marie Walker. I was born and raised in Freeport. I'm a 50-year-old woman. I'm a single parent of a 33-year-old grandmother of 4 going on 5. And the reason I'm here is because my main concern is I live in the town of Freeport. And it seems like I have girlfriends that I went to school with, and they're now caregivers of their parents. And they're filling out Section 8 housing applications all the time.
Ma'am, I'm so sorry. We're talking right now about the capital plan. You will have an opportunity to talk about things other than what's on the agenda at public comment. Did you fill out a card?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you're probably with the public comment.
No problem.
So if you don't mind, I'll just have you come back. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't have any other slips on this public hearing, which is on the capital plan. Everybody, if you want to be heard on any matter, please fill out a slip. This way we can move orderly through this, but if you would like to come forward, come ahead.
I just have one question. As far as like planning the road work, my name's Leanna Thompson. I'm from Baltimore, New York. When you do road work, I see that you guys are ready to start, but as someone mentioned earlier, as far as the zombie housing and there's a request for proposals on that component as well, are the people who are taking care of the road work, are they working with the design, people who are redesigning houses and buildings or businesses to make sure that they don't have to then go back later and redo the roadworks, as has happened plenty of times in the past, and just waste money.
One of the things that we do in the town is that before we start any road work, we contact the utilities. You're primarily talking about the utility companies, right?
Right.
Yeah, because they are doing a horrible job of patching the work that they do. We try to coordinate with them, and what we do is, and our Commissioner of Engineering can confirm that, we let them know that we're doing the streets, so we tell them when we open the street, if you think you've got any work that you need to be done there, now is the time to do it. So they work pretty good together on that.
So are you surveying residents as well, sending them notices of, okay, time to reassess, we're gonna be doing road work, so they have time to like have appraisers come to their house, so that way it's not like, okay, well now this person is doing housework, or this business is gonna do it years later, is it going to be like natural, everything is getting done, and not just having to keep going back and redo the same issue because now another house?
Yeah, but before the work gets done, or it gets started, I should say, before it gets started, notice is given to the residents. Am I right, Commissioner?
I walked in the middle, I'm sorry.
We give notice.
Talking about coordinating sometimes with the utilities in terms of the roads that we're going to reconstruct, so this way we don't reconstruct them and then they're torn up again.
Sure, all the utilities are notified of what is slated and budgeted for in terms of road construction.
And the residents, are they noticed as well?
Yeah, they're notified in advance. So for example, this year, as we put together our 2019 capital, we have all the roads selected. We'll be sending out letters to all the residents that will be affected by that construction within months before when the actual construction happens.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll on item public hearing number 5 as amended?
Supervisor Gillen.
I vote aye, and I said I put forward that I'm glad to have put forward a 5-year capital plan that looks at not only this year's current needs, but also sets a roadmap for our spending going forward. I'd like to thank each and every one of my fellow board members, the Controller's Office, the Commissioners, the department heads, and members of my staff, including April Smith, for working on this plan together collaboratively. It really was a collaborative effort. And based on the input we received from residents over the last year, the priority was clear, which was more funding for our roads. And we listened to you. The 2019 budget for road reconstruction is $10 million more than last year, and or more than half of the total capital budget for this year. Over the 5-year plan, about $167 million will be put forward to improve our roads. And this is a significant and much-needed investment for our residents. The 5-year plan also contemplates over $20 million for our parks and over $40 million to protect our water infrastructure. The overall 2019 budget allows us to work on our infrastructure and stay within our goal of borrowing only what we can offset with retiring debt, so that our debt service number does not increase. I'd like to thank the town board once again and everybody who worked collaboratively on this plan. Yes.
Councilman Blakely. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boozby.
I'm very happy to vote on this and adding the extra money for some of our residents who truly need to have their streets repaired.
Councilwoman.
Yes.
Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilman Buscarella.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
Proposed creation of a new Chapter 43 of the Building Zone Ordinance of the Town of Hempstead to be entitled Transit-Oriented Development and Related Districts for North Lawrence and Inwood.
Supervisor, I would like to add an amendment. I would like at this time to move that we add item 49, a resolution adopting a CEQA negative declaration of determination of non-significance in connection with the proposed creation of new zoning districts and overlay districts in Inwood and North Lawrence, to be heard in conjunction with item 6.
All right, so right now, I'm going to have the clerk call the roll. We'll be voting on public hearing number 6 and administrative calendar item number 49 in conjunction, since they both affect the same parcel. Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrino. Councilman Dunn. Senior Councilwoman Boothby.
Aye, and congratulations.
Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Okay, so on this public hearing, and item 49, first we had John Cameron and Kevin McAndrews.
Oh, boy.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Supervisor Gillen, fellow town board members. Kevin McAndrew, partner with Cameron Engineering, 177 Crossways Park Drive, Woodbury, New York. Engineers and planning consultants on behalf of the town. On behalf of the entire team, the town attorney's office, the town building department, Councilman Blakeman's staff and office, key stakeholders within the North Lawrence and Inwood communities, as well as the residents' input, it's my privilege to make this presentation on such an important initiative which has been led and guided by the vision of Councilman Blakeman. There are 3 boards which are technically being put up on easels at the moment, and my presentation will correlate to these 3 visuals going from left to right. So starting
Can
with
I make a
the
suggestion? I think we've seen these, and we also have gas rounds. Could we turn them around? Continue, but turn them around so the public can see it. Maybe you can hold them up one by
Just
one.
hold them up. You can-
Okay.
Dave, why don't you just hold them up one at a time? For context purposes, I think it's important for everybody to understand the boundaries of the study areas and the existing conditions, which really sets the need for this transformative initiative. The project area has 2 distinct boundaries. On the right-hand side of that exhibit that's presently being shown is the North Lawrence Hamlet area. The boundary is defined by a bold purple line. To the bottom of that boundary area, or the south side, is a star. That star is the Lawrence train station. The center of that study area is the primary street corridor, Lawrence Avenue. The Inwood study area is separated through the center of that exhibit by New York State Route 878 Nassau Expressway. The Inwood study area has a bold blue line. In a similar fashion, the star at the bottom of that study area is the Inwood train station. Both of these train stations I mentioned are part of the Long Island Railroad Far Rockaway branch. The center primary street corridor within Inwood is Downey Boulevard. Most interesting and compelling here is the land use pattern within each of these study areas. There's sort of equivalent color, but the dominant color within each of these study areas is purple. And purple is existing industrial and manufacturing land use, approximately 350,000 square feet around each of these respective train stations. What comes with this land use? Heavy truck traffic, higher emissions, noise. This is a land use that is entirely undesirable, not only around the train station, but especially adjacent to the residential communities of both North Lawrence and Inwood. What has happened over time is that this industrial and manufacturing land use has migrated on both of these primary corridors of Lawrence Avenue, the Red Fern area in Inwood, and literally has now occupied residential lots where there's contractors, storage yards, truck traffic. It's a condition that unfortunately has been contributed to the town's decade-old zoning code, which supports this land use and has really inhibited
the ability for these communities to transform in the way that they will be able to under the proposed code. The vision to create walkable hamlet centers, each with a distinctive sense of place around the Inwood and Lawrence train stations, with mixed-use development and housing choices in a sustainable approach to improve the quality of life for the Inwood and North Lawrence residents and the surrounding communities. The vision statement has guided key strategies which are integral provisions within the proposed zoning code. And it starts with strengthening community identity through exemplary architecture, streetscape, landscape, and civic open space. This code incorporates regulations with regard to design standards. It includes provision for an advisory design committee which will administer, again, the exemplary architecture which will be a result of this proposed code. Creating a positive economic environment, a sustainable environment, an environment that has the mixed-use downtown character, ground floor, retail, restaurant, commercial space with residential above. This really serves as a catalyst to live, work, shop, enjoy entertainment in the area, and it really responds to one of the most critical needs and challenges of Long Island, that is attracting and retaining the younger population and senior populations. And what this code does, beyond just providing new housing choices, is make a bold commitment to affordable workforce housing. This code, where the majority of the housing units will be around the train station within the primary TOD zone, has a mandate of 20% affordable workforce housing and 60% area median income. And just to kind of put that in context, that translates to an annual gross income of approximately $56,000 for a household of two. So this is a code, as I stated, that is making a bold commitment, and it goes beyond just the provisions of the percentage and area median income. It also speaks to a local preference for the residents of the Inwood and North Lawrence hamlet. An important consideration that often comes out of housing is there an impact on schools. The good news is that there's not an impact on schools. It's been proven and shown with many successful TOD projects that very few school-age children are generated with this type of housing.
Let me stop you there. And in fact, if this is built out the way that it's been planned, it'll have a materially positive effect on the school budget in that district, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And what ties into this very broad and sustainable initiative is such a key, and that is shifting the emphasis from an auto-centric district to a pedestrian-focused district.
Mr. McAndrews, could I just interrupt you for 1 second, since you did mention preferences in the housing? Certainly, I'm very supportive of transit-oriented development, and I'm very pleased to see a project like this go forward. I just have a question. We did receive a letter from the Nassau County Planning Commission with respect to the preferences. I just want to make sure that in enacting these preferences, we're not violating the federal fair housing law, and that we're okay with the preferences that we've embraced in this code.
Yes, that is absolutely how our coordination has taken place with the town attorney's office. And I think for clarification purposes, one of the distinct characteristics of this community is the demographic. This community is literally the inverse of the demographic of Nassau County. It's effectively 3/4 minority population, approximately 50% Hispanic, 25% Black African American, and 25% white Caucasian. And what this preference will do is strengthen and maintain the strength of this community and its minority base, and actually hit and head on what is often a displacement result of affordable housing, which was not intended. So we're confident that what we have here speaks exactly to what the community wants.
have to say Councilman Lakeman was very strong in his directive to us to make sure that there is strong preference for the local community there, so that it would not be the displacement.
I think that's a great thing. I just want to make sure the preferences are legal and comply with federal law.
Supervisor, go ahead, sorry.
I'm very, very happy that you stress that, because most people who live there already cannot afford to go into those luxurious apartments that would probably, everybody wants to put up in neighborhoods where minorities live. So I agree with you, Councilman, that the best thing to do is provide housing for those who are already living there that they can afford to live there.
Yeah, we made a conscious effort to make sure that the nurses, the postal workers, the janitors, the gardeners who live in the area who have children and work in the area, that they'd be allowed financially to stay. And that's why we were very aggressive with our affordable component. And in addition, the preferences are to encourage diversity and to keep Inwood and North Lawrence residents in Inwood and North Lawrence and keep the character of the community pretty much as it is. The problem is not in the residential sections of Inwood and North Lawrence. It's around the train stations primarily, where there are warehouses, there are truck terminals, there are factories, and it's created an unsafe environment after dark, where it becomes a ghost town. Pretty much, the residential communities will not be affected. The primary areas that will be affected are industrial types of uses that are incompatible and inconsistent with the train stations and all they have to offer as far as getting people out of their cars, having a place where our young people and our senior citizens can stay in and want to be part of this community. We've had a tremendous amount of them moving out, and we don't want to displace Inwood and North Lawrence residents. We want to encourage them to stay in the community. So we looked at the legality of the preferences, and we feel comfortable that we would prevail. The fair housing issue typically is where you're trying to exclude the community, and as Councilwoman Goodsby said, trying to exclude minorities. We're trying to encourage that at least 20% of these units are affordable and for people who live in the community.
I agree with you 100% because that is what is happening, and I really support you 100% with this.
On the contrary, what's happened in some communities where there's been fair housing lawsuits is where it's been fairly exclusively white communities, where they've been given local preferences which would exclude minority communities. That is absolutely the opposite of what's happening here.
So to summarize, would you just go down a checklist of the studies that you did, and then we'd like to hear from the public?
Sure. Over the past 12 months, there's been rigorous, comprehensive engineering, planning studies, comprehensive traffic studies, economic studies, affordable housing research and study. There's been real estate impact studies. All of these studies were performed concurrent with the formulation of the code that is before you. The code went through an evolution where there was key stakeholder input. The code ultimately that is before you is supported with what is referred to as an expanded environmental assessment form and report. This report is in compliance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Part of that documentation is the preparation of a negative declaration which demonstrates that this initiative will result in numerous positive benefits. It demonstrates that there will not be adverse impact introduced as a result of this code being adopted.
Thank you, Kevin. And just to reiterate, there was a meeting with key stakeholders that included the fire departments, the police department, the Long Island Railroad MTA, Nice Bus, the Lawrence School District, the Village of Lawrence, the Village of Cedarhurst, the Inwood Civic Association, and a variety of other groups that were invited and did in fact attend a key stakeholders meeting. And then about a week later, there was another meeting where notices were given by mail, and approximately 200 people showed up at that meeting where this all was unveiled. Is that correct?
That is correct.
If I may, I would like to just state that what the town is doing here, the town is not serving as the developer. They're also not mandating a type of development. What they're doing is, through the enactment of this overlay zone and TOD district, is they're facilitating economic development for the betterment of the community. They're incentivizing it. There's density being provided and access near the train station to facilitate the investment, private capital, so that there can be the funds available to create affordable housing. Just to create affordable housing, we need to incentivize private investment. That's what the town has done here with the enactment of this.
And I'd like to just conclude by recognizing Councilman Blakeman. He has been the strongest advocate for the formulation of the Smart Growth Code, and all along the way has pushed us to set the bar higher, to have the most progressive and sustainable code that brings the town forward and really sets the stage as a model code for other areas within the town as well as on Long Island.
Well, I happen to know the area very well. I know there are members of churches that are members of come back and work at my church. So I'm very much interested. I'm just so happy to hear that this is the formulation, because it's really going to make it better for many of the people who live there. They're not happy the way it is now. So this is going to make it so much better. And the fact is, there will be some affordability for the people who live there, not like where I live, where people are trying to come in and put up luxurious apartments and get rid of the people who live there. So I've got to have them come up to my area and help me too.
Thank you, City Councilman.
So this project,
All right, John,
if I may,
you're going to lose your vote if you keep talking. Let's get the vote.
say not only can this serve as a model for other areas in the town of Hempstead, but it serves as a model for Long Island.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have another number of slips of people who want to be heard on this. Bobby Chaka?
They didn't pan it too much, did they? What?
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Chola. Pretty much born and raised in Lawrence. Basically, I know this area extremely well. It's always been underutilized, desolate, dangerous after hours. So, super excited to see this initiative go through, to see what this area can become. We've seen areas like Patchogue, Farmingdale, Rockridge, Center become areas that nobody cared about to one of the most important in Long Island. So really looking forward to it. Thank you to Councilman Blakeman for finally making this change happen. I just want to keep it short and sweet, so I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Frank Meadow?
Mesereau, lifelong resident, in my 85th year. Came home from one in the hospital, we're right on the city line there, Far Rockaway, Queens. Came home, never left my block. Stood there for 85 years. I thank Councilman Blakeman for his interest in this project, and I'm not here to oppose, but I do want to urge that you proceed with caution. It's a very unique community. It's called 5 towns. It's really 4 towns in one. Hewlett, Woodman, Cedarhurst, Lawrence, Inwood. There is a difference. And we enjoy living there. Some people can't believe that, because they look at it and it doesn't compare to the, first of all, it's surrounded. You've got Lawrence to the north, to the south. Village Incorporated, Village of Lawrence, and the Village of Cedarhurst to the east. Jamaica Bay surrounds the rest of the town, essentially. We're an island. So we have to be careful. It's, when it looks good on paper, I think it's close to something like 364. I read in the paper the other day, the landing is close to $364,000. So that should be, but there's certain things happening in it that, because we are as we are, the Long Island Railroad separates us from the other communities. But we do have people that their livelihood, is First of all, the gardeners, for years, the gardeners, they're not welcome in Lawrence, they're not welcome in Cedar. We welcome them in the inner community. We have industrial properties and commercial. Like my phone? Sorry about that. But anyhow, there's about 200 gardening trucks roll out of Inwood every day during the season to maintain and manicure the lawns and properties of the 5 towns, the Rockaway Peninsula and beyond. So, in a sense, we don't want to shake that situation up. If it can be handled properly, but we don't want to shake up those people that are dependent on for their livelihood.
Yeah, Roy, if I might, and I know you as Roy for many years.
That's what I go by.
That's your given name, but Frank is your legal name. I didn't know that to this day, and I've known you for almost 30 years. Roy, basically, one of the things that we're anticipating that this will do in a material way is create jobs for the community. And when you talk about gardening, there will be streetscapes and pocket parks that will be part of this, which will create more work for the local gardeners. And this project is not going so deep into Inwood that it's affecting the homes, where I know that a lot of gardeners, they pretty much operate out of their trucks and they have their little businesses. This should not affect them in a negative way, it should affect them in a positive way.
Okay. There's just an item of safety. Some people, just because it's poor looking, I don't think the crime rate, the 4th precinct, I think it's supply records I can at the moment. But it's a very safe community, very safe. There's going to be trouble, maybe our residents go elsewhere. What was it, you know?
Yeah, and Roy, the issue is that the Inwood Railroad Station and the Lawrence Railroad Station are being underutilized because they're surrounded by industry. And after dark, there's nobody there. There's no community. So people are using the Cedarhurst Railroad Station as their first option rather than Lawrence and Inwood. And this will change that. People will feel safe going to the Inwood Railroad Station and the railroad station in North Lawrence, because now there'll be a viable community, there'll be people around. It'll be a community rather than a ghost town, as I said, after dark.
I don't know if that's totally true. Inwood is on the other side of the tracks, as they say. Immediately on the other, explore the Inwood station, but the other side is the village of Lawrence. And in Lawrence, the other side of it is Lawrence, but the other side is
North Lawrence.
North Lawrence. And then that's a nice residential area. It's got some, you know, others to it, but I just say to see 30 things that happened in Inwood. Like they had a water tank a few years ago, a major water supply for the whole area, including Atlantic Beach, you know. And we argued over that. We wanted to put it in Lawrence. I had a big say, oh, they didn't want it there. They put it in Inwood.
Mr. Meserole, I'm sorry, but your time is up, so we need to wrap up your comments. But if you have other concerns, Mr. Cameron is right behind you. I'm sure he'd be happy to listen to some of the concerns that you have, and we can make sure that you're included as this process goes on.
I appreciate the opportunity, but proceed with caution.
Thank you, Roy.
You have a good life there, and just because money's, I don't know where you're going to get the money from. And the other thing, I just want to add, 5-story apartments. We don't want that. Why should we have 5-story apartments when the rest of them have 2-story garden apartments?
Okay, you can just speak with Mr. Cameron. He's right behind you, all right? Thank you.
That's right.
Next we have Isaiah Moultrie. Moultrie, sorry.
Good afternoon. Just want to start by thanking
If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Isaiah Moultrie, 216 Cedar Avenue, New York. I spoke with Councilman Blakeman about this issue for years. I'm so thankful that he has took the effort to put this forth, because Inwood is desperate. We own several properties in the area. It's desperately in need of new housing. And I just want to say thank you, Councilman Blakeman, for taking the time to do this and the effort you put into it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Next, Paul Fink.
morning, Ms. Supervisor and town board members. My name is Paul Fink. I'm the Special Projects Advisor for Community Development Corporation of Long Island. I'm speaking on behalf of our President and CEO, Glenn O'Shea, who was unfortunately not able to attend today. CDCLI is a regional nonprofit that was founded 50 years ago to address growing demand for affordable housing on Long Island. We are a national and regional leader in community development, working to revitalize and build strong communities, and we serve both Nassau, Suffolk, and a portion of Brooklyn, and we provide a variety of programs to help with dynamic challenges in these areas, including homeownership, rental housing assistance, real estate development, home improvement, clean energy, multifamily development lending, and affordable housing technical assistance. While we have played a role for many years in these areas, the housing needs on Long Island are still great. 30% of Nassau County residents lack sufficient income and resources for housing, food, childcare, transportation, etc. Families are considered to be rental cost burden, housing cost burden, when they have to pay more than 30% of their incomes, their gross incomes towards housing, and about half of all Nassau County residents do have to pay that. In addition, as of the fourth quarter of 2018, the median sales price of homes was $520,000 in Nassau County, which is far out of reach for the median family income of $93,000. That a family earning the median can only afford a mortgage of about $240,000. Lastly, on statistics, there is a staggering and increasing gap in housing affordability. Nassau County residents currently earn 42% more than they did in 2000, but home values have increased by $86,000 in the same time period. So housing doubled, went up less than half. In partnership with private developers, CDCLI has participated in the development of more than 1,800 affordable multifamily apartments on Long Island, and we have about 400 currently in the pipeline. Most of these developments are located in higher density community centers, such as the area we're talking about here. This provides residents convenience to shopping, healthcare, transportation, and employment. It also helps to support downtown revitalization, minimizes impacts to neighborhood streets, and provides additional revenues for local businesses. CDCLI supports the concepts in the Inwood and North Lawrence zoning initiative as consistent with smart growth, neighborhood revitalization, and transit-oriented development principles. It will help bring back vibrancy to the downtown areas. We would be happy to help in any way with the design of the project from concept to implementation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. King. Eric Alexander.
Supervisor, members of the town board, my name is Eric Alexander, Director of Vision Long Island. Definitely pleased to see the town move forward with a new code for Inwood and Lawrence as far as transit-oriented development direction. We certainly praise Councilman Clayton for his leadership, working with his local communities, spoken to members of ours who are in those local communities, and we've received positive feedback. There have been community meetings, multiple community meetings, and really from the bottom up, and that's how you should do these types of plans. And I know many of you on this board know this and are doing this in other communities that you're working in. In reviewing the plans, there are, what's unique and excellent about this plan in particular, there are a range of housing options, particularly some of the townhome options that will activate land around the train station further north. They also created 20% affordable units. It's higher than the usual minimum threshold of 10%. We're glad to see that. We're glad to see a focus on trying to keep people in the community. That's very positive. So also, the car light concept, the reduction of vehicle miles traveled to get people to stay in the community and use their car less as a sort of clean aspect where we're all headed ultimately. The plan, as we see it, is radically tax positive. When you look at the school kids that go into multifamily units, it's 3 per 100 on average in Long Island's transit-oriented developments. So it's a minimal impact to the school district, a very positive impact to your tax base. Redeveloping the area, retail to commercial. They also add, you can see here, they have some of the U office to small office to WeWork models. There are opportunities to have transit-oriented office space as well to weave in. Creating a walkable and safe area for the neighbors. Four things that I wanted, just tweaks in the code that we did see. There's some green building standards that may be a little aggressive, particularly if you see prevailing wage legislation passed to make the cost to build a bit too much in this setting. So that's one. Two, keep the architecture local. I know you've got a board that will work on that, but just trying to keep the design styles as local as possible. Three, rear alley loading and having garages in the rear versus in the front is generally preferable in a transit-oriented format. And number four, if there's a way to remove minimum lot sizes so you can have some varied types of development within the code. Overall, we're just really happy to see Inward and Lawrence now be part of the 40 communities on Long Island that are doing community-based downtown transit-oriented development. We've seen 13,000 units approved over the last 12 years. We're very excited about that, and there's a lot of lessons learned, but I think you're in a place where you're learning those, and you look forward to move forward with this plan. So kudos to the town.
First of all, thank you for your comments. We will take them into consideration. This is just the first step. It's going to be tweaked along the way, so we will take your comments into consideration and see if it can be tweaked going forward. Thanks so much.
And Eric, thank you for coming. I think you must have slept over last night at the town Hempstead. I want to thank you for your comments on this and all your incredible work in downtown Baldwin as we develop an overlay zone there. I think slowly the town of Hempstead is approaching the 21st century, and I think that we can use what's happening in Inwood and Baldwin as an impetus for us to look at the entire code and to update it and bring more transit-oriented development throughout the town of Hempstead. So thank you for your efforts in this.
And just last point I make, Long Island's a community of communities, and every community has a different, almost different set of economics, design styles they want to see, different scales of buildings, and local folks want to plan their communities their way almost, and I think you're doing that, you're providing an opportunity here in the town of Hempstead. That's great. Many villages across Long Island do that. So there's no one way to do this, but I think you're tailoring it to each community, and that's the way to go. And I know Councilwoman Gooseby's talked to me about that many, many times. That's
You can come
important.
now. You can come over to Ms. Hempstead.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Thanks, Eric. James McHugh.
Chief, I just want to start by thanking you for your service to the community. I appreciate it.
My name is James McHugh. I live at 204 Oakwood Avenue, Seahurst, New York. I'm here representing the Lawrence Sears Fire Department. I'm the Chief Department. This project is going to be very helpful to the fire department. Housing for our members. It's very, very hard to obtain members as home prices in Lawrence and Seahurst are very expensive. My organization will fully support this. We thank the town of Hempstead for helping us help you. Thank you, Bruce, for reaching out and always being with us.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Yehuda Kaminetsky? Kaminetsky. Yes.
It's an honor for me to be here. I moved back to...
You could just, I'm sorry, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yehuda Kaminetsky, 2 Meadow Road, Inwood. I lived in St. Louis for the past 10 years. About a year and a half ago, I wanted to move back to where I grew up, and we chose Inwood. The area in which we live is young, it's vibrant, safe for our children. We have some family members in Far Rockaway, and we walk along Downey. The area in which we're talking about can be, a bit dirty and unsafe. And I believe that with the housing, it would bring in more vibrancy
Yehuda, I just wanted to say, I know your dad, Rabbi Mordecai Kamenetsky from Yeshiva South Shore, who's a good friend, and of course I understand this is the anniversary or side of your grandfather, who really was one of the top people in the community for years and years, Benjamin Kamenetsky. So thank you for coming today.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Avi Roden.
My name is Al Roden, and I'm at Cranford. I'm fortunate before I go to work, I study in the Inwood community, and I drive by every morning. And you know, having this type of a project is extremely important and could really benefit the community. And I study by my school that I've lived, been there for many years. So I'm bored and I know the hour's late, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Chief Peter Curcio.
Chief, thank you for your service as well.
Good morning. I represent the Inwood Fire Department. I'm a lifelong Inwood resident, and I've been serving the department for over 13 years. My department wants to thank Councilman Bruce Lakeman for personally involving us in this project, allowing us to plan for the future of Inwood. We thank you kindly and very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Edwin Rosale. Edwin. David Hankel.
Hence.
Sorry, Hens.
Good morning, everybody. Councilman.
Good morning. Can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
David Hance, 17 Meadow Road, Inwood, New York. And once again, Supervisor, Town Board, thank you all for taking this up and giving it the time it needs. I not only live in Inwood, but I'm the president of the Inwood Civic Association. Although today I am here speaking as David Hance, I can tell you we support this project. We are very excited about this project for many, many reasons. There's a lot of blight in Inwood, and I think this can really take us to the 21st century. Development, bring in new life, as someone mentioned. I live in Inwood, but yet there are no restaurants. There are no bakeries. We have Chinese restaurants, we have delis, and they're awesome. But it would be nice to have nice retail operations and enough people to support these operations where they become. I really, really think that the people who have lived in Inwood for so many years, their time has come. Although any development comes with pros and cons, I applaud the town for ensuring that members will not be displaced. Community, there'll be a home for anybody living there now. They have a great shot at getting a place. I would also ask that during any of the construction, although I know it's hard, it's private funding, if there could be an emphasis on hiring local Inwood, North Lawrence residents as part of the construction. And I know that's a tough thing to do, but if it could be mentioned, it would be great, because we have some fine young people in the community of all walks of life that could use the work. I would also ask, moving forward, and Bruce brought it to his attention, and he got the MTA person in charge back to us. The two train stations, both Inwood and Lawrence, really need a facelift. So if you're going to bring this in, I think it's important that those two train stations be upgraded, something. They just look concrete eyesores, not friendly. Children walk by, it's just not something like wow. So again, there's so much to say, but I'm out of time. I thank you, and I'm looking forward to this.
Dave, thanks for coming, and we've been assured by the MTA that when development starts, they will reconfigure and renew and beautify those train stations. The reason they haven't done it up to this point, they were underutilized. Now that they're going to be utilized, they'll make them as nice as the other communities. And they're an eyesore, those two railroad stations. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And we'll stay on the MTA to make sure that they spend the money there.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Moshe Katz.
Hi, my name is Moshe Katz. I live at 171 Davis Avenue in Inwood. I live there with my 6 children. I work in Inwood at the Yeshiva Katan of Long Island. My children go to school in Inwood. My wife works at the Ocean School in Far Rockaway. We are heavily invested in the area, and we love it there. It's a family-friendly area. It's beautiful, and it's a place where I want my children to live as well. The problems, just to reiterate what has been said earlier, is that the 2 areas that have been discussed, which my wife walks sometimes to work, so she passes by the Inwood train station, and you can ask her and her friends and the neighbors around there who, it's not a comfortable place to walk, especially at night at the end of the day. Even during the day, it's not such a great place to walk by. I know I walk with my children past the North Lawrence station, and it's also uncomfortable walking by there. I know the woman who babysits my children she goes to church. She lives right next door to me, and she goes to church on Wanzer over there. And then she walks down to Central, to the bank, Wells Fargo, and every time she passes that area by the bus depot over there, she said she clutches her purse and she gets very nervous. So this is something that I think is going to be so welcomed by the people in the broader community. I know that when the idea was mentioned initially, we have a lot of friends who live on Bayview Avenue, and they were nervous about trucks barreling down, as it is now, trucks barreling down. People said that they're afraid to keep their children on the sidewalks because they feel like people are just barreling down to those areas, which don't really belong in a residential area in the first place. So I'm very grateful to Councilman Blakeman for being so forward-thinking and really creating a place that will be beautiful, that will be a place where my children will be able to stay. I know that in the Yeshiva Katana, we have teachers who drive in from New Jersey, and they are looking for places to live, and there's just not enough housing. So this is going to be something that will be fantastic. We'll have a place where hardworking people will be able to live, and educators, and public service people, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Next is Nita Meredith.
Yes, hi. Just to, I guess, echo all of the earlier sentiments, but on a more personal, specialized note, I am definitely in support of this, and I believe that this definitely is a model that we can replicate throughout the township, and it's definitely needed. I salute Councilman Blakeman for this initiative, and during the discussions and planning for this, I have been in touch with him and his office, and I also want to recognize Debbie Puglisi from your office for her hard work with regard to that.
Debbie's only going to be with me a couple of more days because she's transitioning to become Deputy Commissioner of our Senior Enrichment Program. So I'm going to miss her, you're going to miss her, but she'll be helping out our seniors. So thank you, Nita, for your support.
And I look forward to working with her on that. We've already gotten started with some discussion.
I'm sure you have.
I don't miss the beat. But also with regard to this, as far as the housing issue, I do encourage that you in your office, that you work with Paul and the CDC to get that plan in place, because I think that type of alliance is something that would be very beneficial for residents who can look for the support and resources to get into the facility. Also, with regard to the overlay amendment, I'm fully in support of that. I would just hope that it has some flexibility with regard to other projects that are on tap in that community of Inwood that are outside of the TOD area. So I'm just hoping that it is not so locked in that we cannot look for some flexibility with regard to that scenario, because again, it does model the process that is taking place in Baldwin. And I was at the scoping meeting last night. I'm beginning to see the supervisor and Councilwoman Erin King Sweeney all over the place, which is a good thing, because it is letting the community know that our elected officials do care about what is going on and the conditions that so many residents whose voices have been long unheard are dealing with, as I know Senior Councilwoman Gooseby can attest to that. So we are looking forward to that. And lastly, the fact that you are inclusive of our diverse veteran population, being at the meeting that you had in Lawrence, that I was in attendance, definitely standing room only, and I know that you are hearing the voices of your community, and that's always appreciated, and we continue to look forward to working with you to address those issues as it pertains to providing housing and keeping our first responders, our veterans, our young people, and our communities of color in place where they can feel safe and secure as well. And a point that was made earlier with regard to as far as the road work and getting involved, we need to really better track what the utilities are doing, because they are carrying up the work that our tax dollars are paying for, so we need to monitor that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murday. Craig Kyle.
Hi, good afternoon. Councilman Blakeman, I thank you so much for your efforts.
I'm sorry, could you just state your name and address for the record?
Craig Pio, 482 Ross Place in Oceanside. But I do work in Inwood every day. One of the owners of Reservoir Funeral Home, and I have other properties along Downey Boulevard. So we're looking forward to this development. I'd love to have restaurants and other stuff going on in our neighborhood. And just briefly, I've only been working there since 2013, but I do try to stay involved with the community. It's a great community. Dave Hans is my partner in some other projects, and we're really looking forward to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pyle. Okay, I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Will you just state your name and address?
My name is Miss Gwendolyn Marie Walker. I was born and raised in Freeport, New York. I have spent over 50 years in Freeport. I am a single parent of a child with sickle cell thalassemia. I had him at the age of 16. I wish I had him now. I would have been on the Teen Mom show. That's money. But besides that, anyway, my point is, and what I'm concerned about, is that I have girlfriends that I went to school with that now are caregivers of their parents. You know, are now it's becoming hard nowadays to take care of your parents and take care of a house. And we're taking over what our parents left behind and trying to keep a hold of what they have, their homes, their property, whatever they have to leave for us for the next generation. And my problem is that I'm stating, sometime in September, I went to a Section 8 housing opening, and I stood online all day in Westbury at the Senior Citizen Building in Newcastle. And what really concerns me, what puzzles me, is that most of this is 2019, of May the 7th, right? Now this is the age where we have modern technology. Nothing is really done by paperwork anymore. And what concerns me is that every year, they always have Section 8 housing opening in Hempstead, in Roosevelt, whatever. But what I'm hearing from everyone where I live at, they're not getting any callbacks. They're not getting any returns. No one's answering them. And they have 15, 20 years of keep on filling out applications. And what kills me is that someone said something very interesting 2 weeks ago. When you fill out paperwork, even for a job, on paperwork, they only keep it 3 days. Then after 3 days, it's shredded and thrown in the garbage. They always give you the brush off, but nicely, by saying, oh, we'll call you, and keep it on file. They keep it in the pile, and then it goes in the garbage. Okay? I wonder if they're doing the same thing with the Section 8 housing applications on paper. And like my father, Mr. David Walker Jr. would say, If you find something funny, look it up. And someone needs to look it up and see what's going on, because there's too many Black and Latinos that need housing, that are living in homeless shelters right here in Hempstead. And some of them with their children, after being in a homeless shelter for 5 years, they have to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. No matter if it's rain, sleet, or snow. They're not the postman. They have a baby, but they have to hit the street and stay in the street because the shelter is closed until they open up later on. And they don't care, they don't give a rat's behind where they put their kids. They say, well, ma'am, you could come back when it's time for you to come back. That's not right. So someone, whoever's in charge of the housing situation, Section 8, needs to look into it and do something about it. That's what my father would have did. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your concerns. We do provide some Section 8 vouchers. We'd be happy to make sure that if that's where people are having problems, that we correct that on our end within the town of Hempstead. We also are doing a housing study because we know that there is a real crisis in affordable housing in Hempstead. So we're going to be looking at that across the town of Hempstead, and we're going to be reaching out to the community to get your impact as we move forward in that study to really hear. Thank you for sharing your concerns. But right now, really we're focusing on this transit-oriented development. That's what this hearing right now is for. That doesn't mean that we're not going to take your comments into regard just on a broader scale. But right now we're just hearing on the public hearing number 6 and item number 49, which relates to this transit-oriented development in Inview.
Let me say another point.
I'm so sorry.
I was in a nursing home for 32 years, and my mother worked as a nurse's aide, and she worked 20 years as Hempstead General. And me being her daughter that worked at the age of 14 at Penny Savings and worked 29 years working 2 jobs, taking care of a child by myself, without any public assistance, without child support, without a man helping me. Now, I have the right to say what I want to say, because this is the town that I grew up in, and I see so much impoverished people, and people suffering every day.
Yeah, you absolutely have a right to say what you say, and that's what we usually hear in public comment.
Yes, and also not to take it into consideration. It needs to be looked into. It needs to be an open investigation, and I'm not going to shut my mouth until it's done. Thank you, have a good day. God bless.
Thank you. Ma'am, if you have some facts about anybody who came for a voucher here, you can see Rebecca Sinclair. Where is she? Oh, you can see Adam Haber and let him know what your complaints are, and we're going to look into that, okay? Do you see this gentleman right over there? Raise your hand, Adam. He'll look into it for you, okay? All right, and you absolutely have a right to speak. We're just doing this hearing.
That's why I pay my taxes.
Absolutely. That's what we do, public hearing at the end.
My mother went since the age of 14.
You absolutely have a right to be
I have
heard.
the right, as a Black American woman, to speak my mind.
Absolutely.
I speak it every day of the week, because there is no way that you can tell me that there ain't nothing going on fishing. When it doesn't smell right, look it up.
Thank you, ma'am. Please just speak to Mr. Haber.
I surely will.
Thank you. Okay, so first we're going to have a vote on item number 49.
Yes, Supervisor, I move that the public hearing be closed and that we adopt item 49.
Ma'am, right now we're just voting on Inwood. You absolutely have a right to speak, but right now we're just talking about the vote on Inwood. So we have public hearings.
I want to speak on Inwood.
You want to speak on Inwood? Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we have to finish this vote, Supervisor, getting this done.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Quintina Tenney, and I'm from the town of Hempstead. First, I would like to say thank you to Ms. Goolsby and Paulette from your office. Thank you, Ms. Jillian and Ms. Sinclair from your office. And thank you, Ms. Sweeney and Mr. Lampion from your office. But I just wanted to say I spoke with the gentleman here from Cameron Engineering, and I would like to see housing opportunities like this brought into Hempstead, Roosevelt, Freeport, and also the gentleman who spoke from CDC. We would definitely love and appreciate opportunities from the CDC as well. So I don't live in Inwood, but I do support it.
Thank you.
Let me make a statement.
I'm sorry.
There are many, we don't have any more affordable housing in the village of Hempstead.
None.
Well, no, I know, because they're all occupied. And we don't have any more in Roosevelt, we don't have any more in, because you know why? Not in my backyard. These are only places that are being built. So I'm grateful that he's doing this where he is in Inwood. The other towns don't do it. Okay, so you know there's a problem with that.
And I was saving that for my public comment, but I would definitely like to see the other districts do their job, as America is doing their jobs with, migrants coming from other countries. I would like to see the districts doing their job with us, working together collectively and providing housing. Because I've been out there speaking to women and children. I've been trying to get them to come to the meeting today. Listening to women cry, just in shelters, paying to be in shelters. I mean, it's like, they're paying $2,000, $3,000 a month for a shelter stay. Why can't that be given to them for housing? Give their families some sort of normalcy. Everybody's coming up here for a dream and normalcy, but yet still, we have women and children here already in shelters, crying every day. I've seen it, I lived it. I actually went out and handed out 1,500 flyers trying to get people to come to this meeting, and I would definitely like to see the other districts reach out, and invite help. You just have to see what I've seen and experience what I've experienced. And also as far as like the gentleman here, I keep forgetting from Cameron and the gentleman from CDC. I think it's a great idea, but we need more than just 20%. What is it? 20% of the building of the units for affordable housing. I guess it would be, something different, and those are people in Hempstead being that, we are lower income communities. That's it, so just leave. But thank you, Ms. Goolsby, Ms. Jillian, and Ms. Sweeney. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you. And we hear you, and we want you to be part of the process as we move forward in our housing study, and to hear your feedback on affordability issues so that we can make sure that we serve the community. Thank you. Okay, do you want to take your motion again? First, we're going to be moving on item number 49.
Yes, I move that we close the public hearing and that we adopt item 49.
I second the motion.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Casino?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye. Supervisor, I now move that we close the public hearing with respect to item 6 and that we adopt the new zoning code for Inwood and North Lawrence.
I second the motion.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Casino?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, will you call the next public hearing, please?
Application of Alfalfa Cargo LLC for a special exception public garage to renovate the existing one-story, 7,923-foot building and add 1,837 feet, 137 feet addition as a service drive entrance and exit to serve as an automotive service and repair facility with related offices, premises located at 795 Merrick Avenue here in Weston.
I make a motion, I move to call item 35, a resolution adopting a C-Corp negative declaration of determination of non-significance in connections with a car dealership on Merrick Road and Corporate Drive to be heard in conjunction with item 7.
Second.
Okay, just to be clear, what we're moving, the motion is now to hear item 35 in conjunction with public hearing number 7. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Casino?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilwoman King Sweeney? Councilman Muscarella?
Oh, for the record, it's Corporate Avenue, Merrick Avenue and Corporate Drive.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Garrett Gray, with the Law Group, 295 Hollow Road in Belleville, New York. The applicant, I'm afraid it won't be as interesting or exciting as the last hearing, but my best to go a lot faster. The petitioner Alfalfa Cargo is a limited liability company and contract for the need of the premises here in
have to describe. With me today is Randy Sporn, who, together with his brother Joel Sporn, are the managing members of the petitioner. The petitioner also owns and operates Westbury Alfa Romeo, which is a new car dealership located at 928 Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. Westbury. I should have brought to a good start. The petitioner intends to use the subject premises as an automobile service and repair facility. As proposed, the premises fully complies with all dimensional zoning requirements. Furthermore, the petitioner is providing 70 parking spaces where 24 parking spaces are required. Petitioner's auto dealership currently operates the repair and service center for Westbury Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, and Alfa Romeo at 111 Bond Street in Westbury, and their sales and showroom location will remain in Westbury at 928 Jericho Turnpike. The proposed premises will serve as a new location for Westbury Alfa Romeo customer vehicle repairs and service. The service facility located at 111 Bond Street will continue to operate as an additional vehicle service and repair facility. The petitioner is proposing to renovate the existing one-story, 7,923 square foot building and add an 1,837 square foot addition as a service drive entrance and exit to serve as an automotive repair and service facility with related offices. The proposed facility will be centrally located on the property. It will house 12 service bays for vehicle repairs and service. Importantly, no automotive body repair or automotive spray painting will occur anywhere on the premises. All repair and service work will be performed within the building on the premises. No work will occur in the yard of the premises. The petitioner intends to employ 10 employees at the service and repair facility. It will be open from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday and will be closed on Sundays. The proposed use of the premises will cause no adverse effect upon either the character of the community or the use and enjoyment of neighboring properties in the surrounding area. Traffic to and from the proposed auto repair facility will be dramatically lower than the prior use, which was a Bertucci's restaurant, for those of you who recall. And the hours of operation will be less than Bertucci's as well. The premises is properly situated for a use such as the one requested, as it is in keeping with the pattern of development already existing in the area. The relief requested and proposed use of the premises is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Town of Hempstead Building Zone Ordinance and will promote the general public health, safety, and welfare. Finally, we are aware that the Nassau County Planning Commission issued an LD and also issued a comment that automobile facilities tend to proliferate along streets where they're located. While that is true for automobile dealerships, it is not true for automobile service and repair facilities such as this. Again, if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them, and Mr. Sporn is here to answer any questions as well.
I have one question. In reference to the service center, do you have tow trucks that will take cars to the premises? Do you pick up the Alfa Romeos?
Hopefully no cars would ever be towed in with that. No, we do not. We do not own a tow truck. We don't operate a tow truck. They're supplied by the factory. If a customer's car breaks down, they're instructed to call roadside assistance. We also work in conjunction with a local body shop and tow company, and they have preferential treatment, so they'll call our preferred tow company and they'll go get their cars and tow them.
Councilman, I'd like to just make a comment. As someone who I inherited from my father, had a love for cars, all different cars, variety of cars and everything else, I'm just glad that Alfa Romeo is back in the United States, that they're investing in our country, and that they are bringing those cars that are different than the cookie-cutter cars that are available in American consumers' choices. So I'm a big fan of Alfa Romeo coming back to the United States. I'm glad they're in our community.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that, that Alfa Romeo is a U.S. company through Chrysler Fiat, and I'm very happy to see the Maserati engine and all that Italian design back in our country.
It's what's great about this country, the choice, and
we're finding out that the customers who are buying Alphas, and right now they are successful, there's passion. There is a choice. There are choices in every different price category of cars, trucks, SUVs, and it's offering the public another choice. And the people who come in are just very excited about a new option to go with that entry luxury vehicle, to where we're selling as well. And the reason we're doing this is we are selling more cars. Our existing Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram truck facility, which is also to be successful, we just don't have enough room there. And we also want to offer the Alfa Romeo customer a better experience where they're differentiated. They're not the normal customer servicing that are playing on the car dealer. We're giving them their own.
Thank you, gentlemen. I don't have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be, or on this application, is there anyone who'd like to be heard?
I'm all in favor, definitely, of commerce and industry. I'm just curious with regard to the town and their process for the types of businesses that are coming into our area, because it just seems like there is, for lack of a better word, a proliferation of garages, gas stations, convenience stores, and like the discussion earlier, and I hear the pain of the residents, from Freeport, and again, dealing with veterans who are homeless and fighting homelessness and things of that nature. And we do have crises of magnitude here. And it's not that I'm saying I'm against this, but my question, again, pertains to how we're looking at where we're putting our emphasis. And so I think this is more of a charge to our planning and economic development and community outreach to focus on these things a little more stringently, because we really do need to start looking at the residents and their issues. And because knowing how the lengths of these meetings can possibly be, we need to maybe restructure some things so that residents and the issues and their pain and their voices can be heard, and then maybe we might get a better attendance, at these types of activities. So I'm just hoping that we're kind of looking at that, and as it pertains to this project, I'm hoping that we look at it again from a public safety standpoint and from a waste removal, again, the garages, convenience stores, and things of that nature put an undue burden on the sewer and water systems of those representative communities. And we're talking about contaminants later. So, let's again try to get ahead of the situation for a change, considering we're living on a dangerous plume. We've got bad water, bad air. We've got a lot of things that are going on. We're coming into the storm season. So we really need to start looking at where we're actually putting our emphasis and be a little bit more supportive, a little bit more compassionate, because the young lady was standing here to speak. This is her first time. Again, we don't want to give people the wrong impression, but she was standing here to speak. And if it was me, I would have sat down and started speaking on the microphone, but she was still trying to be respectful. So, all of you saw her standing here. I know we did. And we were telling her and saying that she needed to speak. So I'm just saying, let's be cognizant of that. And this again, when we start looking at these applications for these gas stations, garages, and convenience stores, let's start looking at other things, maybe restaurants, community centers, senior centers. Let's look at what returning some of these former VFW halls and American Legion halls into. They're becoming the 7-Elevens and the Bolas. But we still have veterans who have needs here, and let's start to address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak about this item, that application that we just heard?
Yes. I do agree that another parking garage might not be the best, because town council does have requests for proposals on how we can utilize current parking spaces that we do have already.
Ma'am, I don't want to interrupt. I just want to make clear for the record, it's not a parking garage.
Or what was it exactly then?
It is a service center for the brand of car Alfa Romeo.
Okay, regardless, it's
I
still.
know, I'm just making it clear for the record, that's all.
When it comes to car dealerships, we have enough car dealerships and automobile services all along the island, and to focus on that, I don't think it's an important thing at the moment without considering, again, the housing crisis that we are facing and other technology that can be implemented to make sure before you just focus on one company, okay, what other car or automotive companies also need help, so that when you're grouping them together and using the technology that we have available to help everyone, to help communities at large, as in regards to that matter. So that's all I had to say, that as far as adding another vehicle maintenance, when the transit issue was, we still have to address, you're saying you want to increase the transit-oriented development. Are you looking at it as a whole, or are you just going to break it down and do company by company by company by company? Like, what is the plan?
Transit-oriented development looks at zoning around train stations. That's what transit-oriented development does. So it generally speaking, it provides zoning incentives for developers to come there and start businesses there, or maybe build housing there. This is just a specific application where the applicant is coming to the town to get our permission to just alter structure on their property. So that's what's happening right now. So it's not town-owned property where we're deciding to build a garage. It's privately owned property. So it's a little bit different. So they're making a specific application to change and alter the building at their property. That's different. Transit-oriented development is asking us for permission to enact zoning regulations that will promote growth around train stations.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that when you address your public comments.
And I think it's just important to clarify, and I think we're still here in America where this is private industry, and we support private industry. As long as it's a legitimate business that's following all of our rules and regulations, we should do all that we can to advocate private industry succeed and develop and do all that it can in the town of Hempstead. I welcome your business. I think you have a wonderful business, and it is not the role of the government to dictate what types of businesses come into communities. We have to help the private individuals succeed, and I'll continue to do that.
Well, can I say, based on helping the private individual continue to succeed, I'm a private individual, and I've been trying to submit requests for proposals, but the red tape's up by the government saying that I have to have this number first, I have to apply for this first. Well, because you're a black woman and you're low income, you're not going to qualify for this, you can't qualify for that. So whereas I'm trying to work with community members and rebuild my community, I'm hitting red tape after red tape by the government because you're low income and the things are not going to help you help your private business. So how can you help me today, since you said you want to help private businesses?
Okay, so there's a couple things we have to peel away the layers. First, I agree with you that I think we do need to cut down government regulations, the burden of government, the role of it, that it's happening in our lives. So I'm happy to meet with you. I'm not sure what business you have, what RFPs you've responded to. I can assure you that there's not a single person in the town of Hempstead who's discriminating you based on your race.
The reason why I didn't want to speak before was because when I do come to the microphone in the courtrooms or government buildings, the first thing that happens to me is the police are called because, well, you're speaking out of line. So that's the only reason why.
Okay, I don't know what's happened here in the past. Here in the town of Hempstead, no one would treat you like that. But I'm more than happy if Marcus in my office, we're happy to sit down with you. I don't know what type of business you have, whatever it is, and if you've responded to an RFP, we'll look into it. But as far as these gentlemen who have a good business, everything I know, we as a government should not be dictating what type of business comes in as long as it's a legitimate business. It's our job to help local small businesses grow.
Okay, I do not have any other slips on this public hearing. Actually, first we have to vote on item 35.
I move we adopt item 35.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Yes.
Councilman Blakeman? Aye. Councilman Diaz-Padrón?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boothby? Aye. Councilwoman King Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Okay, now on public hearing number 7.
I move we adopt item 7.
Second.
Aye. I would like to close the public hearing at this point.
And adopt.
I move we adopt item 7.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gilman.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Padrón.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Goofy. Councilwoman King Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. I declare this hearing closed and petition granted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next public hearing?
Application of K&R 630 Woodfield LLC for a special exception public garage to construct a one-story masonry addition to the existing building, which will serve as additional garage space for vehicle repairs and maintenance operations located in West Hempstead.
Morning, Supervisor Gillen, members of the board. My name is William Vanesso. I'm a partner with the law firm of Frichelli, Dean, Tirana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. Here on behalf of the applicant, K&R 630 Woodfield LLC. Seated behind me to my left are Mr. Kumar Thangavidal and his architect, Mr. Anthony Lopasso. Mr. Thangavidal is the principal of the ownership entity. We're here today seeking permission via a special exception to redevelop and slightly enlarge an existing public garage situated at the premises in West Hempstead. It is a facility that's been there since 1951 in a variety of iterations. My client purchased it about 3 years ago, and since purchasing it, filed applications to make these modifications and to improve the site. It is a property that maintains a one-story masonry building on it that has 3 service bays for automotive maintenance and servicing. Each one has a lift. He is proposing to build an addition to that building, approximately 45 by 28 feet in size, which will house 2 additional bays, one with a lift, the other just a regular work bay. He presently employs 4 employees, 2 full-time mechanics, a full-time clerical person, and a part-time clerical person. The addition that he proposes to build will add 1 full-time mechanic and 1 part-time mechanic to the operation. Current hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Sunday closed. Those hours will be maintained, no changes to those. This is very much a local community service and repair shop, providing service and repair and maintenance services to the local patrons. The site does not do any automotive body work, no painting, no frame straightening, no collision work of any kind. It's really simply basic repairs, basic service and maintenance work. Now, the site will also, or the application also entails the redevelopment of the site. Presently, the site is nothing but pavement. There's no striping. There are no delineated parking spaces. This will result in a redevelopment of the site. It'll clear away an existing storage unit that's on the property. It will also stripe the property, and in doing so, provide a total of 12 parking spaces. 8 are required by the use and the new addition, so it will actually provide an additional 4 spaces, albeit those 4 spaces will be in the front yard setback. We're asking for permission to do that as well. But by providing the additional parking spaces, we feel that it would alleviate any potential parking congestion on the property. So, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Did you clean all of this up? Did this get cleaned up?
Some of it has been cleaned up, Councilwoman Gooseby. It will be completely cleaned up. I was provided with a copy of the inspection report and the items listed as non-compliant. I've had a very frank conversation with my client about what needs to be done there. He's fully aware of that and is fully prepared to completely bring the property into compliance. Much of what needs to be done will be the result or will be removed as a result of the redevelopment. There, as indicated, I know that there's a storage container there. I know that there are numerous unregistered vehicles, tires, and auto parts. The vehicles have been removed, the tires, I believe, have been removed, but everything will be removed in conjunction with the redevelopment of the property. He's aware of that. I'll make sure of it.
So you'll make sure all the outstanding violations are moved up or something?
First of all, tires are a hazard. If you have them outside and it rains and they get water, what happens?
Understood. It is. Oh, yes,
It was, listen, I don't know what you were bringing to about. I don't know. I read directly of my district.
understood. The site has been in existence, like I said, for a long time. Thank you, Vidal took it over in 2016. There's no reason why it shouldn't be maintained in pristine condition, and it needs to be done so. He's aware of that. He will bring it into compliance. That includes new landscape beds, new striping, new paving. It'll be a much more attractive site. It'll be a much more efficient site in terms of how it operates with the parking, the striped parking, and the use of the property. The ability to add the addition will do away with the need for the storage container, so all those things will go away.
Councilor, I did not see the site plan. Was the site plan submitted with this?
Certainly.
Okay. Do you have it, Senior Councilman? Yeah. But I didn't see the site plan. I want to echo what Senior Councilman Gooseby said. Senior Councilman Gooseby, myself, and Councilman Muscarello, we all share parts of West Hempstead and surrounding areas. I want to echo what she said. First of all, are you going to clean up that facade at all when you do the construction?
Yes.
No offense, maybe somebody else's taste, but it looks a little gaudy. If they could clean it up, and
yes.
I don't know if you're married to the bright red and yellow, but it could be something a little muted for the community when you do the work. It would look a lot nicer. And then what Senior Councilwoman Gooseby was talking about is where is the, okay, we have it here now. Okay, we finally have it. So we would like to see a little more enhancement of the landscaping. And also, would your client be willing to covenant to keep all of the landscaping and shrubbery in good, healthy condition?
Absolutely. The site plan does show, right now there are no planters, no landscaping anywhere.
Right.
The site plan does show 4 planters. We can, in fact, if the board wishes, as indicated, we have 4 extra parking spaces. We may be able to expand some of those planters to do away with 1 or 2 of the additional extra parking spaces and provide more landscaping. And certainly anything that was installed, our restrictive covenants that the board will require will indicate that the landscaping must be maintained, it must be irrigated, it must be kept in good condition, and any dead or dying plantings would have to be removed and replaced with similar plantings of the same maturity, same species, and the like. We would accept all of that.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Councilor.
Yes, sir. Other than that, the National County Planning Commission has recommended a local determination. Again, as much as there are conditions on the property that need to be addressed, this is the first step towards addressing that. It will certainly improve the appearance of the site. The landscaping will certainly make it more aesthetically pleasing, and the operation will run much better once there's striping and parking. And at the same time, it allows my client to advance and expand his business so that he can continue to provide a successful opportunity to the community. It will also add 2 additional jobs.
Councilor, would you be willing to represent at this time that you would dedicate at least 1 parking space to additional landscaping? You want to talk to the client about that?
No, he's fine with that.
So that'll be a condition of the application.
Understood.
Councilor, since Councilman Dunn is not here, I'll
ask that, can you make sure there's a flagpole on this property?
I'd like to say that he does presently fly a flag, but it's kind of attached to an existing sign. That's not going to be the case. He's going to actually be able to put an actual flagpole in the planter to be located off the north end of the property.
Thank you. You come here and I think you should just always put that in.
I should have said it was in my notes.
Thank you.
That's our direct presentation.
I don't have any slips on this public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Well, I'm going to be good this time. Because you have come to us and I always respect you, and anything that we ask you to do, you have made sure that it was done. And you know how I am when it comes to looking good and being clean, and you definitely get rid of tires. I cannot take those. Okay, you cannot have those out so that they get rid. If you do everything that you said, and we'll have someone come and check you out, then I will go ahead and close the hearing and grant the application.
On the same conditions set forth by City Councilman Guzman, I second that.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrón?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilwoman King Sweet? Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And Councilman Gooseby, Councilman Blake, you can rest assured that everything will be taken care of as promised.
Thank you.
And it will be a showplace, so that the neighbors will be happy.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you will please call the administrative calendar.
Yes, there are items 9 through 57 on the administrative calendar.
Would any of the council members like to sever any of the items on the administrative calendar? No? So may I have a motion on the administrative calendar?
I move the administrative calendar with the exception of item 35 and 40.
Second.
Okay, first we Felix Papachi.
Felix Papachi. I'd like to point out that this board voted last week, or last meeting, that asking for a person's address is an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. So I asked, since that was the determination even by the town, I think council that had no response, that do not ask for people's address. I want to speak on item number 50.
Let me just jump in. We can ask, but it would be up to them whether they want to disclose that. But we like to know where people live. It gives a little more insight.
I'd like to speak on number 50, the various offices and positions, in particular the leave of absences. When I first asked about that, why weren't they put on the calendar, I was told by the town attorney that it was a HIPAA regulation. Then I researched that and I found that wasn't true, so I foiled it and I found out that it was an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy, but no explanation was given as to why knowing somebody is taking a leave of absence is an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy, so I appealed the decision. And it's too long to read in 3 minutes, but the gist of it is likely to result in at least personal hardship to the subject party or parties regardless of the reason for the leave of absence, and importantly is not relevant to the work of the town. I disagree, to say the least. When I went to file an inquiry with the compliance officer that we recently hired, he did not respond for many days, and I found out that immediately after he was hired, he took a leave of absence. So, so I had foiled information regarding his timesheets, and it turns out he does not keep timesheets. So the problem with the leave of absence issue is that there could be illegal absences, and the management here may tolerate that, and the public will have no way of knowing that. So there's no public feedback. And to say that it's not related to the work is untrue, because if people are taking leave of absences, it may add to the overtime costs within the town. So it's definitely a concern for residents and the financial.
Mr. Procacci, unless the Commissioner of Human Resources can correct me if I'm wrong, but people take leaves of absences for personal sick reasons. I can't possibly fathom why you need to know why someone is sick, what's going on in someone's personal life.
That's the second time I was interrupted.
Well, you've made all these allegations against us that we have all these bad motives. We're trying to shield this information from the public. You have people living normal lives who are undergoing some sort of health issue, and you don't need to know about it.
Once again, I even indicated I don't need to know the reason for the leave of absence, just the fact that they are taking a leave of absence.
Should be sufficient for you.
The fourth time I was interrupted illegally. Well, this made the paper. East South Manor school chief placed on leave. So apparently his rights have been violated, and there's been many instances in which different officials have been put on leaves of absences for different reasons that are made to the public, available to the public. I'm not asking for the reason for the leave of absence, just the fact that they are. And my school district, by the way, does, you let other people speak for 45 seconds over. My school district does rule and vote on leaves of absences and makes the name, and not the reason, but the fact that a person is taking a leave of absence.
So to be clear, Mr. Procacci, you think that we should identify who's taking leave, but not the reason?
That's fine.
That's what you're suggesting?
That's fine.
Thank you. Valerie Lamb?
Valerie Lamb, Hempstead. Forgot what number it is. The Whistleblowing Act.
Yes, we're calling for a public hearing.
Right. I wanted to ask regarding that whistleblower proposal. Is it going to be retroactive?
I don't understand what your question is.
Is it going to be retroactive for an employee?
Mr. Roth?
There's currently in the state of New York a whistleblower statute.
Right.
I will refer you to that, number one. Number two, no, it will not be retroactive. But it repeats substantially all of the, it goes further than, but it repeats all of the protections that are in place right now for the state of New York. State of New York applies to all of the municipalities.
Yes, right. I get that. That said, I was just wondering if there's any kind of statute of limitations, or so it's not going to be retroactive, but if there was an employee of the town of Hempstead who had a complaint and felt that there was retribution regarding the status of their employment, or whether or not they received a demotion or any kind of vendetta, are they able to file a complaint from something that transpired, say, a year ago?
Mr. Roth, I think what you were saying is employees always have whistleblower protection under New York state law. What we're doing is codifying state law and maybe enhancing it in the town of Hempstead.
So if something happened a year ago, would an employee be able to make a complaint, file a grievance now?
I think that would require a legal opinion, which I will not be giving. The town attorney should not be providing legal opinions.
The answer is yes, because the state law would apply.
Okay. Thank you very much. The other question I had was, so Councilman D'Esposito, thank you very much at the last meeting when you instituted a code of ethics that would prohibit an elected official from, I guess, without using words that might put me on a witness stand, reaching out to someone's employer, that of a vendor for the town of Hempstead, and causing them strife, fear of job loss, loss of income, etc. My question is, who's going to protect the actual private citizens? Is there any whistleblower protection for the private citizens who, for example, I have a colleague of mine who shall remain nameless, who's very fearful of coming forward. She wants to talk about her experience at the animal shelter and also something that she witnessed regarding an animal that she wanted to adopt. She witnessed firsthand abuse. And she's petrified of coming forward because she owns a business within the town of Hempstead and she's afraid of retribution. Who's going to protect the private citizens?
Go to the DA.
Is there anything that can be done so that if someone has important information, they want to report something that is unethical behavior and it should concern all of us, that they will not have to fear for their loss of business, income, or even personal attacks, cyberbullying, etc.?
We will have a board of ethics under our new ethics law. Mita Meredith.
Rita Meredith, Baldwin resident. I think I numbered my things. Number 23, I just wanted to know, it says an increase in the base cap of the contract. Okay, what does that mean and why? Just want to get all my things out here. The clock is ticking. And 36, just I need the specifics with regard to that particular secra. And 39, this is authorizing settlement of claims, not interested per se in the actual names, but I'm just trying to keep a running total of how much we're paying out in settlements over the course of the year.
So for 23, we had our contractors doing additional work that was not anticipated in terms of the Baldwin redevelopment and the overlay zone. They're doing additional SECRA related work, so we're just increasing the amount of their contract. That's what 23 is. With respect to...
And how much is that increase?
$50,000.
Okay, so that brings their total to how much to date?
It's not to exceed $377,000.
For this particular aspect of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Supervisor 30. Number 36, you asked about?
Yes.
36 is a public garage on Babylon Turnpike in Watford.
That's Roosevelt.
I'm sorry, Roosevelt.
Okay, tell you the number of garages are just going up, and we wonder why our water is so contaminated. 39.
39 is two items. One is an $8,800 settlement for property damage in a car accident, and the other one is a settlement for $38,700 where there was personal injury in a car accident.
Okay. Okay, cool. So overall, I think with regard to just these issues, I've asked before with regard to the contracts that are being awarded, if we're going to be on some kind of track with regard to diversity, if we could start listing if it is an MWBE component and one of the other avenues that I think we also fail to realize. Because again, people have the wrong connotation as it pertains to minority business. They have this assumption that everybody's small and working out of their closet. I mean, there are some minority business owners that are billionaires. Bob Johnson, Oprah Winfrey. But we might have some locally, if we expanded our horizons a little more, instead of saying, well, we can't find anyone, if we partnered, we're putting out, I believe the number was in the millions, as far as contracts. There are municipalities that put some type of, whether it's legal, how you do it, or indirectly, but clauses with their prime contractors to put the onus on them with their secondary outreach, subcontracting, however you do it. If you're going to say, I'm giving you $20 million of our taxpayer dollars, we have some expectation of you doing the outreach to do some inclusion, some kind of process, paid apprenticeship, not training that someone has to take time out to do. Then you would find that ballistic would grow a lot deeper as far as the diversity pool as well as the workforce. This is May. We can start doing something a little differently for the summertime as far as the outreach. And I would love to see a study to see how many gas stations, garages, and maintenance facilities are in the northernmost communities that are not as dense in the population of minorities, because there are quite a few in the communities of color. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meridian. Mary Ellen Craig?
Good afternoon, Mary Ellen Craig in Glendale. On item number 14, are there specific parks planned for that, or are they for all the parks?
Commissioner, are you here? Commissioner Newman?
Number 18. Is that Commercial Avenue, those wells, 5 and 6, Uniondale water wells?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good morning, members of the town board. There's the well on Oak Street, which is just south of 11, yes.
The groundwater storage tanks, where are they located, please?
One is in the Bowling Green Water District, and one is in the Lido Point Lookout Water District. Those are the water department tanks. There's also a tank at the Lido Beach Golf Course and one at the Merritt Golf Course.
So none in Uniondale. And 29, the street lighting, where is that located? Or is it throughout the town?
There's various streets throughout the town.
Okay, various. And I'm sorry, there is one more question about the water. The East Meadow well number 1, is that the one that's located in Uniondale?
Well, one is located at Prospect Avenue.
Oh, Prospect, okay. Thank you. I think that's it on the calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. I do not have any other slips on the administrative calendar. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard just on the administrative calendar?
Good morning, Amy Funderburg, Ivy, 139 East Hampton Avenue, Roosevelt.
Good afternoon.
Oh, sorry, afternoon. Sorry. I'm 36, and please excuse my ignorance. Can you please be a little bit more specific in nature, exactly what's going on with that particular property?
Mr. Rodriguez.
This is an application to have a public garage at a location on that long turnpike in Roosevelt. That will come before the town board for a public hearing. This resolution says that the granting of the application would have no adverse significance to the environment. just see what an impact is. No adverse effect to the owner.
All right, but it will be a public hearing on this.
There will be a public hearing on whether or not to grant the use. This has to come before that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to be heard on the administrative calendar?
Sorry, I'm not familiar with this, but, so the administrative calendar is anything from 9?
9 to 57.
Okay, sometime, I use plenty of time, plenty of time instead. So for number 10, for the special assessment for professional services in regards to unsafe in-ground pool. Number 10, for the unsafe one-family dwellings in Roosevelt. Could you please explain what this is about?
So Commissioner, you can jump in if we need to. Sometimes when we have unsafe structures, the town has to go in and fix them or board them up. And so what we do is we do the work, but then we put it on the rolls. Is that an accurate description? Yes.
Okay. So my thing is, but we have plenty of those around there, around Hempstead, Roosevelt people. I guess what was the April 25th paper, Newsday Long Island paper. There was $215,000 that was, I guess, approved for the study of 547 zombie houses. I guess this will be considered a zombie house. And foreclosed property, the unsafe buildings now.
I can't speak to each house. I don't.
Okay.
Generally, I think one was a swimming pool. Commissioner,
so this is just one for one regarding one house. Just one house. Okay. All right. Now I just thought it was more than one home here. All right. But all right. So I guess I'll.
I understand it's actually multiple homes.
Yes. There's 5 homes that are part of this resolution. There's only one in Roosevelt, 69 Pleasant Avenue. And basically this was for the engineering fees. We have an outside engineering consultant that comes out and prepares a report for the town board.
Okay, so it's just about the I guess assessment fees given to I guess the engineer that's come in and I guess checking to see if it's safe, unsafe.
You want to report some unsafe homes?
No, I don't. But I would like to see done.
If it's a home and you think it's unsafe, you can repair for somebody to live in.
Thank you, Ms. Lucy. That's exactly what I'm saying.
You can explain that.
I'm sorry, what specifically?
With the housing crisis that we have, I don't understand why we haven't been declared an emergency when it comes to housing, declared an emergency. The town of Hempstead, because we have no housing, we have zero housing. Even the woman here who was speaking regarding she would like to apply for Section 8. Don't get involved because I have a Section 8 voucher. It's useless. It's useless. There's no housing available. So I would like to see these houses, instead of just being boarded up in my community, because like other communities, I guess you guys are going for houses just to be boarded up. I would like to actually see something being done. Like I know we have maybe the town has a construction company or construction services that you use. Why can't you guys go in and just renovate? Some of the homes are owned by the town, right? No, they're not taken over by the town when they're.
These homes, the case homes that are subject to this are not owned by the town.
Okay.
But we have been partnering sometimes with Habitat for Humanity to try to cooperate with them as they rebuild homes.
Okay. And also, can I say this? We're going.
I know Habitat has preference with a lot of homes. Right now, they have 265 applicants and no homes.
I spoke with them, yes, I do, and it's a waiting list, waiting for that as well. And I was just like, I used to do foreclosure processing, I know Bank of America was like one of the biggest banks that like foreclose across America. But I would like to see if there's any kind of way that we can work with, these foreclosed properties. Is there any kind of way that,
I don't know who, housing, the town, or whatever, to work with, maybe instead of just having to sit here, you can work with us, because like I said, I have a Section 8 voucher, there's other women out here with vouchers and things, or even just working families to get some kind of affordable housing, work with the banks, they're just sitting there.
That's what
And they've been sitting
we're trying to
there
look
years.
at right now. We're looking at that right now.
If I may, ma'am, I don't mean to interrupt, but just so you realize, not every time that there's homes like this on the calendar, does it mean that they are in foreclosure. For instance, the building department, if we have in your community, let's say the house that you live next door to goes on fire, the building department will come out and then sometimes have to secure the building. So that would be something that would be on here. There could be a pool in the backyard of a house that's not foreclosed, but it needs to be made safe so we can say, listen, we made this parcel safe. So it's not always foreclosures.
I understand.
Yeah, just.
I do understand that you do have to make it, safe for the people, but I'm just, like I see so many of the houses, so you don't know what is, of course, if I see a house that's burnt down, and of course it's a fire or whatever, it needs to be made safe for the public. But I'm just saying that homes that are just standing, just boarded, like right in Brown Street in Hempstead. Two beautiful homes, just boarded up, just sitting there,
Because people can't afford to pay the taxes.
Yeah, that's true.
If they can't afford to pay the taxes, then the bank takes them over.
Yeah.
But we have no right to them, until it's declared out as vacant, so, but we can't touch those. I live in a village, that's the village, they can't touch that.
I understand, Ms. Lucy, I understand, but I'm just saying, if we could try, if there's somebody reaching out to like the banks or trying to work something, we're in a housing emergency. We're in a housing crisis. It's like, no stone should be unturned. I mean, like I said, I've been out in the community, I've been talking to these women, I have women crying to me every day. And it's, I myself, I'm looking for housing. You know how many people living in unsafe, illegal housing. I just went up on Terrace Avenue, I have a woman and 3 children, 1-bedroom apartment. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. We are.
We're doing as much as we can here within the town. Yes, we are, honey, I'm telling you, I know. All right, but some of the places that are left for people with Section 8 to live in is not fit to live in. Okay, that's the main problem. A lot of people, they rent them out, and it's really sad to see what people have to live in. But it's because they own those, a lot of people are owning those. We don't own, we can't take away from our own, honey.
Yeah. I understand, but I'm just saying it's like, so I may ask the craziest question, but it still needs to be asked and understood because we are trying desperately to understand why our cries for housing are falling, it seems to be on deaf ears. And yeah, it's just like, are you working with like a HUD or, just housing period.
I'm sorry,
Time's up.
All right, thank you. Yes, we can have, this is all appropriate for public comment, but are you talking about administrative calendar?
Yes, because exactly about what was being said earlier about the issue, about the housing.
All right, ma'am, thank you for your comments. Right now, we're trying to close the administrative calendar.
But let me just ask you first.
I just want to say one thing there. One thing real quick. I know you're twice my age and my mother taught me to respect people. But let me just say one thing. Thank you. Now, especially about this man here, he said he want to build a parking lot in Roosevelt. In Ballard Turnpike. I live over in that area. My name is Gwendolyn Marie Walker once again. I live on 12th Hope Place. Now, I saw a woman who may be probably Indian descent or whatever in my area this morning picking up bottles because she don't have a place to live. Now, instead of building for the private owner, building a parking lot, why not take that area and build a home?
You have to talk to the person who owns that.
I want to talk to the property. Please give me his number and address. I will be at his doorstep every morning.
And I'm sorry, I know my time is over. I just want to say thank you again to Ms. Guzman for letting me in your office. Thank you, Ms. Sherman, and Ms. Sinclair from your office. And thank you, Ms. Sweetie, from Mr. Lampkin in your office as well.
We must do this. We have to do this.
Oh my God. No control here.
Well, honey, it's the same thing, but we have to do this. We have to finish this as business. When we finish with this, you can talk.
The issue's still gonna be there whether or not you close it. Because you close it doesn't mean the issue's gonna go away. The issue's gonna remain. So why not just take that time, which is what I'm saying. Everybody just wants the money, but think about it from a teacher's perspective, which is what I am. When you're doing a project with your students, you wanna spend time and planning. Planning, not just close it, go get the money, and let's do it. No, you have to plan it and evaluate it. So when it comes to number 10, about the swimming pool.
Ask someone to bring it out, take it with me.
This is what I'm talking about. Well, okay, thank you.
Okay, so we want to finish this and then we kind of break now. Okay, that's it.
Madam Clerk, will you call the roll on items 9 through 57 with the exception of 35 and 49?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Mazito.
I'm voting aye on the calendar with the, on all. I also want to mention, for full disclosure, on item number 9, I am on the board of the Jimmy Village Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that's applying for a 5K parade permit. And also, I vote no on 37. So I vote aye on all with the exception of 37.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye on all.
Senior Councilwoman Boothby. Councilwoman King Sweeney. Councilman Muscarella.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second. Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman. Aye. Councilman Diaz-Mazito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boothby.
Aye.
Councilwoman King Sweeney. Aye. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. I move that we have a lunch break.
Oh,
15
please.
minutes.
Madam Clerk? Public hearing, public comments. First, we have Valerie Lamb.
She stepped out for a second.
Valerie Baldwin, I apologize for that. I actually wanted to just mention that we are, my fiance and I, about to start and launch a new business, and it will create at least 10 jobs. And I have to say sadly that I don't really see the benefits of initiating a new job and hiring people within the township of Hempstead, very sadly to me. We have a supervisor who voted against a tax cut, which is extremely unnerving and scary. So we will be doing that elsewhere. We're not sure where. It could be the town of North Hempstead or the town of Oyster Bay. Regarding the animal shelter, I wanted to ask, the policy now that was created over a year ago that requires people to be escorted and provide federal identification. Can I ask what brought that on? Who did that and why?
Commissioner Marino?
Commissioner Marino, do you happen to know that? Anyone? Anyone know what brought on that policy, escort policy?
It's not question and answer, you can make your comments and we'll take them on rebuttal.
But Mr. Ra, and I love you and I respect you, but Supervisor Gillen actually campaigned promised that she would never say that it's not a question and answer session and that she would be responsive. So I'm asking.
But she didn't say I said.
I know that, but I'm asking everyone else, and I'm hoping that someone will be willing to provide an answer. I think we have a right to know.
I don't know specifically, but I would think that there are departmental issues there, and they want to keep order as much as they can, and they institute that policy. The director instituted the policy.
There's never been an incident which would require a 45-minute wait on a busy weekend, which just happened 2 weekends ago and deterred potential adopters. Anyway, I'll move on. My other issue is knowing that the board, the entire board, has received conclusive information that shows fabrications of certifications on a resume. In addition to that, you have a forensic linguist report substantiating that the administrator of a hate page and a cyberbullying page works at the shelter. I'm wondering, why is Chrissy Fonte still employed out of contract within the town of Hempstead?
All I will say on that is that we received your information, and no action has been taken.
Now, I know that. Will action be taken, as I'm told?
The information that was provided did not meet the criteria to take action against the employee.
Impossible to believe. Okay, moving on. The latest mailers issued by the supervisor. First of all, I want to be clear. The term Earth Day mailer is actually an oxymoron. The entire point of Earth Day is to preserve resources and not be wasteful. $50,000 worth of mailers for the latest backed by popular demand meetings. Was there overtime involved? I'd like to know. And how many people actually demanded more of these meetings, and how did they communicate that? Because I don't know a single person who is interested in another one of your town hall meetings. In fact, you spent tens of thousands of dollars, which could have been reinvested in our infrastructure. Please don't cut me off. You gave everyone else an extra minute, 2 minutes, 4 minutes. I took a screenshot of how much extra time you gave other people. But my point is this. In addition to lying and campaigning against mailers, you're now issuing tens of thousands of dollars worth of expenses, plus postage, plus salaries, to promote yourself in what you're calling a backed by popular demand meeting, but in essence and fact, they were poorly attended and averaged 20 to 40 people per meeting. Is that really worth $50,000 of constituents' money?
Thank you, you have your facts wrong. Next, Diane Madden.
Dead on, spot on, right.
Oh, boy.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. A quick question, Mr. Ra. At the last meeting, you said that there is an investigation ongoing, and we would be hearing from your office. So please update me on that regarding the fraudulent $109,000 contract. Please stop the clock.
Are you talking about the employee that we just spoke about before? Is this the same question?
Yes.
And no action's been taken?
I understand no action.
The information provided did not arise to the level that action had to be taken against the employee.
And yet, the investigation is ongoing. That's what you...
Well, it may have not gone the last time we spoke. Now I'm telling you that no action was taken.
Okay, that's very contrary to what I am being told by a town official, but I'll try to resolve that.
That's my information. If you have other information.
I have very contrary information to that. We're being assured, and in fact, I don't think this board, in their right mind, would ever pass another contract, and an expired contract cannot go on forever. That's a fraudulent contract. The candidate lied throughout the hiring process and on her resume. This was a political job favor for Santino. We all know it. And I think the reason why the Republican Party is in the position it is right now is because they weren't willing to address these things. So I hope you will do that soon. There's a dog champ. I was at the animal shelter that actually bit an employee.
Let me correct the record. There is no politics involved in this matter.
There was 100% politics involved. Santino hired a 5-person, all-political oversight and hiring committee that had no background whatsoever in behavior. You gave the job to the highest bidder with not the qualifications. This was all political. I didn't ask for you to agree to that or admit that, but there's no question it's political. And that's unfortunate, because we went to a lot of work to make sure that experts were hired at that animal shelter. In fact, we are still doing that, which is why instead of hiring Fonte, as she applied for the assistant director, we have Ashley Behrens. In any case, there's a dog champ that's at the animal shelter that actually bit a handler, a volunteer. I understand the volunteer has been banned. I'm wondering why. The employee, by the way, ended up having to be hospitalized over the bite, not to our fault either, because they're not being properly trained. Who's determining these bans on the volunteers?
Mr. Marino, do you have information about this case?
So Ross, should I, this is an investigation, should I comment on it?
Is there currently, I'm not aware if there is, well then if there's an investigation, we can't comment. I'm sorry.
There's an investigation going on about the dog. The dog was evaluated since then, but the dog did bite somebody. The dog, what I can say is the dog was walking down the hall and someone, I really can't comment at this time, I apologize.
But why is the volunteer banned? I mean, I don't know this person, but I take issue with the fact that you're constantly banning the public. This is not the volunteer's fault. What happened, I was there, any more than the employee should be punished. I'm wondering who is determining when these volunteers are being banned.
The opinion of the town of Hempstead and our procedures and the code that they signed, that the volunteer possibly, that's why there's an investigation,
Don't go with it. We're investigating, or you can't say normally possibly this or that or the other.
Okay, regarding the Tales of Hope Fund, money was taken out of the Tales of Hope Fund to hire an outside behaviorist, a real qualified behaviorist. I have no issue with that, other than the fact that we're supposed to already have a behaviorist, so we're paying $109,000, so now there's more money being spent. Money was taken out of the Tales of Hope Fund, so money is being solicited from the public to basically pay for services we're already paying for that end up determining dogs should be euthanized. Could you explain that, Mr. Ron?
No, I don't know if that's factual, but I would have no information.
I have a FOIL.
Excuse me?
I have a FOIL. The FOIL reflects that money was taken out of the Tales of Hope, a public donation account, to pay for a behaviorist to determine whether an animal lives or dies, when we're already paying the taxpayer money to make those determinations and to evaluate animals. That is not the mission of the Tales of Hope Fund. I'm looking for you to respond to that.
I'm not aware of it. I'll have to look into it.
The RFP for behaviorists, the trainer, is that, I understand that was supposed to be put out. It's not.
Mr. Marino, we have asked you to do that. What's the status of that RFP?
For behavior? Yes. We haven't done it.
My understanding is there was a request to put in an RFP for the behaviorist.
Behaviorist RFP was done by
a year ago.
Your office. And there was one respondent, and that was, am I allowed to?
Isn't that how we found Ashley?
No.
What about a behaviorist?
No, I understand.
The supervisor put out an RFP well over a year ago. You did get response to it. In fact, there's a councilman that met with a behaviorist willing to hire her part-time. Supervisor asked at least 2 weeks ago for the RFP to be posted again, and it's not, and that's my question.
Nobody came out of the animal shelter. I'll check for you, but I have no information on it.
Mr. Marino, we need to discuss this.
We had one person respond to the RFP we sent out that came through the purchasing department, and that person at the last second decided they didn't want the job.
Because of the conditions of
From the last meeting to this meeting, we have not put out another
Sent
RFP.
out an RFP, we got one response person didn't want the job.
That was a year ago. You've had traumas, you've had bites, you've had incidences of injuries from employees, volunteers, animals. You have a fraudulent contract that's still being honored. And you're here to say that a year ago you didn't get enough responses? This is a political job, and they're continuing to protected, and it's an abomination, not just to the animals, but to the taxpayers. All I would like to know is why no one followed your orders apparently, and there's no post to an RFP.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Mr. Marino will discuss this week.
Also, with the TNR, the trapping situation, I understand another trapper has been banned for bringing in a cat from outside of the town of Hempstead. I have been approaching this board for years about the problems within the TNR program, the favoritisms. You have one trapper that's allowed to bring in cats, not have them ear-tipped, have them delivered to her home. They're adoptable animals. They get microchipped all free of charge. And you have another trapper that just got banned for bringing in an outside cat. I have offered a solution to this board for years now to contract reputable trappers to handle and dispatch appropriate trapping in the area. Yet once again, in the same way you banned a volunteer, you've now banned a trapper, a person that goes out on every holiday and every condition of weather, free of charge to taxpayers to do work, and she's banned.
Time's up.
Who banned her? Mr. Ross, I'm told it's coming from your office.
I'll look into it.
And when can I expect an answer? Because I told it was your office.
You know, if you contact me with these questions on Monday, I might have the answers for you on Tuesday morning. I don't have those. I'll have to check. I mean, all these things come out of the, I would think come out of the department. It doesn't reach my level until there's a real issue. I'll check on it for you.
I think you're involved with every single issue. Because what I'm told is that your office called the trapper. I did call you that, and I have enough proof to believe that. But your office called the trapper to ban her.
6 minutes.
I have no information.
When can I expect an answer about that?
Whenever I get the answer.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Thank you.
I'll have somebody contact you.
Thank you. Thank you. Stuart Kroll.
Good afternoon. Stu Kroll, Great Neck. Actually, I've got a couple of topics to speak about. The first one is I'd like to know why there were at one point there was a 5-cat minimum or maximum that could be taken care of there. Why did it have down to 3 cats? You know, unless you have too many cats, you get a huge feral cat problem. What was the purpose of reducing that? Mr. Locke-Ruby, you're the liaison to the shelter. Maybe you could answer that. What was the question? The question is why we've gone down to 3 cats per trapper.
I don't know that that's necessarily true. Yes, the commission.
Mr. Marino? There's a question about limiting numbers of cats.
Right, down to 3 cats, what I understand.
Isn't this National Bring Your Cat to Work Day?
I got to do with Mark.
Or June 17th?
I'm sorry,
Do we have a meeting June 17th?
I didn't hear your
I miss all your cats.
The question was, we've gone down from apparently 5 cats to 3 cats. At the shelter thing, and now we were at any one time. That's obviously causing a problem because.
Well, this is, we're talking about TNR?
Yeah.
Well, there's only so many animals that we can handle at a time.
Well, why were you able to handle more previously and not now?
Well, because it was actually a problem, that's why we lowered the limit to 3.
Well, that's interesting because Massachusetts, which comes to take adult-friendly cats, came a few weeks ago, and there were no cats. So if you have too many cats, we're on.
Well, when cats come with TNR, they release back to the same, they're deemed as feral cats, they'll go back to the location where they were.
Right.
And there wasn't any cats available for them to take.
When you have boarding houses, there are huge problems with people being able to place these cats. So why they cut it down from 5 to 3 is causing a problem for a lot of travelers.
There's only so many animals that we're able to, also taking care of our dogs and our cats that are there. There's only so much animals that we're able to spay or neuter per day without having to go outside vets to take care of animals. So if we're doing it, if we're limiting it to 3, we're able to stay within our limits.
You know what, with the $5 million budget, you can afford to go to a few outside vets, and that's my personal opinion.
We're trying to bring the budget down, so we're thinking $600,000 or $700,000 outside vets. We're trying to get that number down, which actually now the number is trending lower. So hopefully we'll get below $5 million this year, and we'll agree with that later.
Right, but I'd rather you take the money from somewhere else than take it from the shelter. something briefly about hiring Ashley Burns is certainly a positive step as assistant director, but I'm also going to comment on what happens to that trapper over there. I know that trapper, she goes to the worst areas of Hempstead, takes large amounts of cats out of there. To ban her, and I understand that she had to repay $50 for a spay, which is beyond ridiculous. And the person that was just referenced comes in there, she gets her cats not Eurotip, which is against every municipal shelter rules. I think her cages, the traps are even cleared for her. I mean, it's totally inequitable treatment, and I think that would merit an investigation. What do you think, Mr. Rock?
I think if you send it to us in writing, we'll take a look at it.
All right, I will send it to you in writing. That's not the fun. Okay, let's see, moving on over here. Let's see. Okay. As our friend Christy Fonte has been working without a contract for a long time. Apparently, there's no contract, there's no RFP being put out now. So I assume that she's just going to go on either forever on a month-to-month basis, or she's going to get a new contract. Is that fair to assume?
Right now, the employee is on a holding basis.
Okay. Some of the members of this board have shown that they're very concerned with improving conditions at our shelter. I certainly applaud them for that. D'Esposito, I certainly would say you're one of them. Numerous members of our board have never heard voice an opinion on this. I find this personally somewhat offensive, and maybe it'll be less offensive on election day. Also, it's interesting to note that Walmart, as of today, is opening up 100, they're doing a testing at 100 of their stores. They're having veterinary clinics. And by the end of May, the top 30 medications are going to be available in all of these test stores over there. So there's obviously growing, demand for this over here. The last thing I'm just going to say briefly, we recently passed a much-needed watered-down ethics law. A few brief thoughts on that. I'm not very interested if somebody has a second cousin or a brother-in-law, working for the town. I think this is trivial in comparison to trying to silence opposing viewpoints through intimidation. I'll be done in a second. Perhaps a component of an ethics law should be any official entrusted with the public trust that violates said trust should face greater penalties, both civil and criminal, than a member of the general public. And the first one should be a total loss of any pension. Thank you.
Nina Meredith?
Okay, Rita J. Meredith. I just want to revisit my comments earlier with regard to the specific needs that I'm hoping are not just whistling in the wind, because I still really haven't seen too much in the way of direct outreach and resources as it pertains to building an infrastructure for our veteran community and communities of color. This is 2019, and I'm really just getting a little tired. I mean, at this point, it may just be my 9/11 conditions just coming to the forefront. So I really prefer to kind of be out in the community and dealing with the fact that, that there are veterans that are listed on the foreclosure rolls for Nassau County, and they're living in jeopardy and fear of losing their home. So I'm still asking the question in terms of what are we doing to really address those issues when I consistently see these funds and resources going to things that, yes, may well be important to other constituency groups, but we talk about how we want to thank our veterans and support our veterans, but we're still not doing anything of true substance to be about that. So, I mean, just a starting point, if someone says, well, wait, where do you want to start? I hear the word study for roads, for carpets, for colors of paint, to pick the type of chair at Long Beach when we recovered from Sandy. But I don't see anything that speaks to addressing the demographics of our veteran community from a social standpoint, community standpoint, and a business standpoint. So we can't provide a growth model, we can't create the jobs, we can't generate procurement and outreach if we're not starting with that basic premise right there. So again, this is May 7th, so it's the middle, pretty much the middle of the year, and I'm asking the question again, what are we doing, or what are we going to do? What is the plan to actually and actively build a infrastructure that we can build some real life programming to address the needs of our veterans? Because they have housing needs, they have health challenges, they have educational needs, all of this across the board, and nothing is being done. That is my question, that is my time. Thank you.
A short answer for you. The Nassau County Veteran Service Agency does provide those benefits for veterans.
No,
It has been providing it since the 1945. It has been providing.
You don't do business development.
I was the director of that service agency.
No, you don't. They didn't have legislation until I drafted it from 2014. I sat here and done the back and forth. I'm really at a point where the nonsense has to stop somewhere. There is no veteran business development program. There is no format. The reason I know there is no format, as I said, I drafted the legislation which is on the record for the Veteran-Owned Business Act starting in 2014 that went to law in 2016 that is not funded or mandated by Nassau County, but all of you posed for the picture in Nassau County, okay? I stood with the county executive just last week for the Veteran Homeless Study and Commission. If they had funded the Veteran-Owned Business Act in 2016, we could have put some platforms in place to increase veteran business job creation. 85% of veterans prefer to work with other veterans, but we have no business model here. New York State has only 500 veteran businesses listed in its own database. Ken Williams, New York State. How do I know this? But you check the U.S. Census just for Long Island, there are 22,000 veteran-owned businesses self-identified. What is the tracking mechanism for the town of Hempstead to determine who is a veteran-owned business in the town of Hempstead? What is their capacity? What can they do, or what are their needs? So please stop talking to me about what Veteran Services does. Speaking about Ralph Esposito, he does a great job with the limited resources that he has to try to address the housing crisis, not just for people of color, but for all of those underserved constituencies. So I get that. They do a great job in that area, but we're not creating the model that is keeping the student veterans who get a great education here from leaving the county. How do I know that? I was the one that had to work with the local groups to get the college presidents to waive the registration fees with a backlog that was 90 days from Buffalo. Again, for those who don't know, the Northeast region, which goes through Buffalo for the post-9/11 education benefits, was backlogged 90 to 180 days. So our student veterans in 2012 could not get registered for the college education that we promised them when they signed up. We got the college presidents to waive the registration fees so that they could get to the schools. Then we also had to work with the local utilities to not shut the lights off 4 days before Sandy hit. So again, please do not try to sell me on something that does not exist. We are living in a world paradise.
The Department of Labor provides special employment agents for veterans. They already have, you go to the New York State Department of Labor and go to the unemployment office, they have somebody separate for veterans. They always have had it. If they knocked it off, well, then they took it out of the budget. But when I was there, they always had something for them. The Department of Occupational Resources has always had extra people there for veterans to help them not only to get jobs, but to do resumes and to train them for positions that maybe they might have. If they're a disabled veteran, the federal government here in New York State, our federal government has the Vocational Rehabilitation Office, who's phenomenal. They've done a lot of things for a lot of good veterans. Good veterans, there's no bad veterans.
Here's the benchmarks. What are the benchmarks? What are the numbers? What's the tracking record?
That was 25 years ago I was there. But they were doing it then and they're doing it now. And you're telling me that nobody's doing it. You make it look like everybody's turning their back on veterans, and we are not turning our back on veterans.
I
I never
Time's
said
up.
no one is doing
Oh
it.
my
I said we
God.
are not doing enough and it's only surface. Does the 20 a day veteran suicide rate not tell you that we are not doing enough? Do the numbers of student veterans that are leaving this region, does that not tell you we're not doing enough? Do we have a tracking mechanism for the 4,000 who are now over in the foreclosure court?
Thank you, Ms. Meredith.
I was getting up until he got started. I was getting up until he got started.
Conversation afterwards. Rich Shuren.
Sherman, 167 Jefferson Avenue, Colorado. I just want to speak on the tax certiorari case against the power plant. Allen Park Civic Association and other members of the community had a protest this past weekend to bring awareness to the fact that our school district has a $32 million budget, of which LIPA pays 49%, and LIPA is seeking a 90% reduction in the assessment of the power plant that they pay for, meaning they're seeking that the residents bear $14 million in additional taxes, which would raise everyone's tax burden in my community, school tax burden by like 50 to 80%. So it's a dire emergency. I'm just bringing it to your attention again, Supervisor and others on the board. And I'm asking you to, there's a model that you can follow. The community in Northport is facing the exact same situation according to the Northport power plant. The Huntington Town Supervisor has written letters to Cuomo, to others, to Newsday, indicating his support for the community in their efforts to convince LIPA to stop or at least provide some relief for the community. Others, the state senator in that area and other representatives have similarly taken action. Let it be known that they're supportive of the residents in the community, and they're not supportive of LIPA's position. This is an extremely polluting power plant that our community has suffered with for the last 40, 50 years. In return for polluting our community, for depressing our property taxes, for depressing our home values severely, just being an eyesore. We received additional tax benefits that have supported our schools. LIPA is seeking to take that away. What they're trying to do is tear up the social contract that they have with the host community, Highland Park, and leave us with all the negative consequences of having a huge ancient power plant in our community and take away all the benefits, which is namely the tax revenue that they give us. It's an unjust, unfair situation that many people are still not aware of. In my community, I must say, and awareness is growing, but it's not apparent to everyone. So we need to get the word out, and one of the ways to get the word out best is to have our local elected officials speak up, be supportive of us, let people in Albany know that this is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Quintina Tenney?
Once again, I want to say thank you, Ms. Goolsby, calling from your office. Thank you, Ms. Jones and Mr. Claire from your office. And Ms. Williams, not here, but I want to say thank you to Mr. Lincoln from our office. Still here, I don't know, $250,000 for a housing study. What exactly is a housing study? What exactly does it consist of? How long does it take? I'm here asking, can we have housing declared an emergency? Will that make a difference of where can we get funding? What can be done in the community with all the houses that are empty? We need housing. We are in need of housing. We are in need of housing. There's I I mean, the $250,000, the money that was spent, I feel like it was I don't know. We have people that are showing you what to do with those houses that are empty. People are actually going in there, cutting on lights. I mean, they're actually squatting. And that study right there, that's for free. I'm looking at the list here to go down. And of course, 3 minutes is not enough for me to finish this list here. I just need to know, like, I just spoke with Mr. Zamkin, and he kind of like educated, schooled me as to, like, you know, the breakdown of town, villages, and things of that nature, what the council would hear is for, and things like that. But you know what? We are people. We are people, and we are suffering a housing crisis. I don't care about what the breakdown is with town, who's this and who's that. I mean, what can we do to work collectively to help people like such as myself? I'm looking for housing. I can't find housing. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I can't even find any housing for myself. I'm an expert at the New York City Department of Buildings. I can't even find any housing for myself. I mean, what's going on? What can we do? I mean, and you can't, it just can't be like 5 years from now, you know, the start a project and it's going to be finished in 5 years from now. We have taken on, this country has taken on a tremendous amount of people. And through what we did, like the $2 million that was spent here overnight, found overnight for illegals. They were on TV, News Channel 12, $2 million was found overnight for them to renovate this school across the street. Why can't we get anything like that? I mean, there's plenty of abandoned places around here, schools. I've been riding around the neighborhood looking for housing for myself. At Hempstead, was my 3-quarter unit down. It's just, what can be done? What can we do? What can be done? We're desperate. I'm desperate.
Thank you for your comments. We certainly recognize that there's this crisis. The housing study is to try to give us a pathway to find ways that we can incentivize people to come and build more affordable housing.
But, okay, so how
Let's try the housing study is to try to do an analysis, a broad analysis of what we have and different ways that we can try to address this crisis. So we're hoping that it'll give us a roadmap so we can have some solutions to offer.
I just want to say, you know, I understand coming here. I tried everything I could to get people to come into the meeting today, but why not come into our communities? We're people too. Come into our communities. I mean, you can set up at like the PL, community centers, the churches, library. You know, come in and talk to us. You know, come and listen to us. I mean, I feel like every one of you should, so you can understand what we're going through.
Thank you. Community outreach is an important part of our job. We do try to do that, but we'd be happy to come and meet with any group that you put together. All right, I'm sorry, I have to move on to the next card.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gwendolyn Walker?
Once again, my area that I'm interested in is Section 8, homeless and everything else. When it comes to dealing with being homeless, at one time I was homeless with a son with sickle cell thalassemia, okay? And being homeless out here, at one time we had more opportunities and doors open for the homeless than we do now. And it saddened me to see to wake up and see in my own neighborhood where there's people that lived in an area for 40, 50 years, raised their children and their grandchildren. And now you see people of every color in every nation, homeless and not having anyone to turn to, being turned out with their children in the street. And at Walmart on Jerusalem Avenue, when I worked there overnight, okay, and in the morning time I see two women who are maybe Muslim or whatever, wrapped up in their gowns, beautiful gowns, but they have a sign held up with their child beside them. We need money for food. And this is the United States that I was born and raised in. And I don't get why is it that all these so-called organizations that help don't do nothing except turn these people away. I worked for one of the major institutions for 15 years. as a, what you would call a day have and a rest have worker, okay? And I have seen it all. And I did that for 15 years because I had to keep a roof over me and my son's head. But what I have seen is not right. And it's not getting, in the year 2019, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. That's all I have to say. I'm tired. I had a father from crack to Christ. He was homeless on Hempstead bench at one time. So I'm familiar with the neighborhood. At 11 years old, I walked down the street looking for my father, who worked for Nassau County, the supervisor over the lights, the traffic lights. He did that in the daytime. There are 5 stages of crack cocaine use, and he was a working class crack cocaine use. So there's nothing no one can tell me that I haven't seen at 11 years old. I grew up before I was able to become a child, I became a woman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Felix Procacci.
Felix Procacci. Last Wednesday, I went to Law Day at the Westbury Village. And the topic was free speech, free press, free society. I want to talk about our ethics law, the portion that, prohibits a town official, a town employee from infringing on a person's free speech. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. But the news articles written that were determined to be the incubator for this law is incorrect. It is not correct. If person A tells an employer of person B that person B wrote something disparaging on a social media post, nobody's First Amendment rights were violated. If the employer of person B tells person B not to write disparaging stuff on social media, again, nobody's First Amendment rights were violated. I do find it interesting that the press wrote several stories regarding this nonsense because they don't even understand the First Amendment. And I wish everybody attended this because we had multiple speakers and they spoke on different aspects of the First Amendment. And what's also interesting and also disturbing is we've had a councilwoman who actually told me on several occasions I can't speak on what I wanted to during miscellaneous comment. And that's an in-your-face violation of my First Amendment rights. But nobody here got upset over that. And that's really upsetting because that was a real incident and this one is a fake incident. It doesn't have anything to do with the First Amendment rights. And I just want to address one thing about the asking of the address. Since people generally like to respect government officials when they ask them to do something, I think you should qualify it by saying that we are engaging in an unwarranted invasion of your personal privacy. Will you please give us your address? Because I think it's necessary to say that because this ethics law determined that. I didn't vote for the ethics law, you all voted for it, and that's what it says, but meanwhile there seems to be the contradiction. People will do what a government official tells them to do, illegal or not, because they just respect government. A police officer and fireman, same thing. So basically, we've determined that it is an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. We should be open about that and then ask them, well, now do you want to give us your address? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClatchy. Linda Simmons. Sabina Clark. Earl Calloway. Mary Ellen Craig.
senior center. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was a fire there, and only now are they really working on it, especially under these sad stories of people trying to find homes. Just wonder why it took so long. There were 4 giant dumpsters there on the property for, I don't know, 9 months, maybe more. And I thought they were working on the interior. But all of a sudden I saw them working on the roof just maybe a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. And obviously they haven't been doing anything inside, so I'm just wondering what, for those months and months and months, was going on and why wasn't this expedited?
Okay, first of all, we're waiting for insurance. It doesn't belong to us. It's not, part of the town of Hempstead's housing. And they're waiting for insurance, but I know they're working on it now. I've gone there and I see what they're doing. So it's got to be done correctly. It had to do something with electricity. So that's very important that it's done. And I know most of the people that are there, I helped get that place someplace else. So they do have a place to live. But hopefully in the next, I can't say when, but soon it will be completed and they can come back to their homes.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think it could have been expedited because, as you say,
wait for the insurance money.
So the second thing is also in our area, the Bernard Brown Park. I happened to have a couple of conversations recently where I'm told the roof leaks. They did some lavatory work they did during the winter. The people taking the classes had to go outside to a porta potty in the middle of the winter. I would think that this is poor planning, and I'm really not happy to hear that kind of.
Mrs. McCray, we were very much aware of that. We had to do work. We had to get it done within the time frame. The bathrooms were terrible. And we did move most everybody. They didn't have to come there anymore. We had some, but we moved it to other areas during the time that we were having, this problem. Now, with the leaking, it has to do with the air conditioning. We know that. And so it's on order. I think the commissioner is here, right? Want to answer her when it's coming in? I was over there the other day. I'm over there a lot.
Thank you.
So I know what's going on here.
We had an engineer take a look at the roof, and as soon as we get our capital, we're going to address that issue. The bathrooms were taken care of, they're finished. So hopefully that'll satisfy the community.
It just seems like things were done backwards.
Well, we had to do it when we had the money. I didn't want them to wait. I wanted it open for the summer. And not only that, we have the kids there. Tell me what we do.
In the Parks Department's defense, we've sent our carpenters out there on multiple occasions, our roofers, and we tried to fix the situation. When we found out that it was still leaking after doing multiple repairs, we called an engineer to make sure we got it done completely right.
Okay. And it's nice now. Go look. And we're going to spray those benches. That's the other thing I want to see. I want to see that done. Did you notice that the parking lot has been redone?
I did not.
Okay, there's a lot has been done in there.
These are things that people are telling.
Well, I don't know who these people are because
Glasses there.
Well, I know we had some problems, but they go now. It's painted. They have new shades, new blinds. Really, they have new tables. They have new chairs. Go look at it yourself.
And the turf.
And it took a while. And the turf been done. Okay, so there's no complaints about that part. I'm very proud of how they're doing it. And the bathrooms are great.
I'm glad to hear that. My next item is the trees. I know somebody spoke a few months ago about having some kind of ordinance relating to trees because we're finding too in Uniondale the same thing, that people come along, they buy a house and then they tear down all the trees, down all the trees. So I would hope that the council would look at the kinds of ordinances which other communities have, at least before doing something so radical. people would have to present a plan and at least have, that presented to the town, so that there would be some kind of way to look at that.
Would you like for the commissioner to explain to you what happened?
Please.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Basically, if a property is going to be subdivided, then they have to prepare a tree report that goes to town board, so they can't just knock down trees. However, if someone buys a single-family lot with a single-family home, it's their property and they can do whatever they want with it, as far as removing trees or adding trees.
So, but there are towns that do have tree ordinances for private property, and so I'm asking you to investigate, what does the town of North Hempstead have, what does the town, what do villages, what does, whatever, and see if there's something that we could have that at least would give people thought before they start, tearing everything down. Okay, so, I jumped off Southern State Parkway recently onto yeah, right. Anyway, and I noted a huge for sale sign on Church, an AM that I knew at one time had been an AME church, and so I've asked you, Senior Councilwoman, to check into this to see whether it is in fact a historic building, and I've also spoken to somebody in legislator Yvonne Abraham's office to see if possibly this might be moved to Old Bethpage Village as a historic building. So I have copies. I believe it is in Councilwoman Erin King-Sweeney's district. I don't know whether it's North Belmore or Wantagh, but there is a numeral on the building, but it's hard to see whether it's Oakfield or Jerusalem Avenue. So,
Okay. All right, thank you, Mrs. Craig.
the last thing, I just was wondering if that Oak Street plume to the, is that part of the Purex plume?
Which one?
The one on Oak Street, it was item number 18.
Commissioner, can you just answer that question quickly?
Yes, the Oak Street plant is downgrading of the Purex plume, but the contaminant that we're talking about in this particular grant is a emerging contaminant that's pretty much prevalent throughout most wells. So it's not specific to that particular site.
So you're saying that all the wells in the town system need this kind of remediation?
Yeah, there's been a series of articles in the papers explaining almost 70% of the wells on Long Island have this particular contaminant.
That's very concerning.
And even in Village of Hempstead, we have to.
And congratulations to Councilwoman King-Sweeney on finishing the marathon.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. And Thunderbird Ivy?
I'm going to tell you a little backstory and then ask a question. And again, my passion to this, please don't look at it as unprofessional. In 2014, there was a warehouse in our facility, in our community, that was abandoned. The gang members tagged the facility, so we took possession of it by renting the facility. We were paying $2,000 a month. And then our assemblywoman came to us, talked with us, and provided a grant, which was bipartisan. It was through the Republican and Democrat. They decided to give us $250,000 to purchase the facility. With that, we received a contract from the state of New York, where we signed and we were ready to receive this funding. So with that, we invested $75,000 into the facility to renovate it so that it would be a facility for our students. Computer room, dance studio, daycare center, office space for our homeless population would come in because they are kicked out during the day.
and can't go back until 6 o'clock in the evening, so they would come there and be able to do homework and have a place that was safe and clean for them. The owner wanted the building to be purchased, so we were waiting on this fund to purchase, and continues to pay the $2,000 a month. In January of this year, we were kicked out of the facility after spending $75,000 to renovate this building. My question is, now we have 125 kids that are displaced. Our new assemblywoman, Grace Lagarde, she has now awarded us $180,000 to buy a building. But at this point, you know, when you lose that kind of money in renovation, it really gets to you. But my question is, across the street from that facility is property. And I brought this to Senior Woman Dorothy Gooseby, but she has informed me that she doesn't have any control over the buy and sell of any property in our community. So this particular property has been vacant for years. I know that an RFP went out on the property, and I guess the person that answered the RFP hasn't done anything with the property as of yet, because as again, they come to the community and ask us. But where I have an issue is that if that particular property is not rehabbed and the RFP should go back out, the person should not have the right to continuously try to bring something to the community. After you make a plan, and it doesn't work, then it should go back out so that other people, I've lived there for over 50 years, so I should have the ability as a community person to at least be able to purchase some property there. I mean, at this point, after losing what I have already, it's only quite natural that I fight to get something else. And I've worked with the owner of that particular property, and I've had so many people call him and say, you know, hey, she's done so much too, why would you want to get rid of it? So I come back to the question, how am I, as a business person, as a nonprofit, have the ability to purchase land in my community to do the work that I've set out to do?
Now, what are you saying? You want to purchase the land that your building is on?
No.
You're looking for the other one across the street?
Right, which is empty, it has a sign on it, they haven't done anything with it for years. I would like to be able to purchase the property and, you know, build on that since I've...
But you don't know, before you can do that, I don't know what the bid is now, but I know it was bid, it was out for bid, I don't know where it is. Is anybody here from planning that would know? Oh, Commissioner Baker, did you see that? Answer that, because I don't know. I don't get into that aspect of it because I have to make sure that I keep my hands clean so that nobody can say that I did anything bad. So, Commissioner.
Supervisory board members, there's two pieces of property presently being negotiated. We are trying to expedite that, and I think we will have an answer probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, whether we'll be moving forward on it. If you want to send a proposal into the office, we'll be ready for you to go over and see if we can come to some type of accommodation. We have to make sure that it is in keeping with all the CDBG regulations and what have you. You certainly can do that.
And then, I don't know what you plan to put there, but you need to have a plan because you have to come through buildings. Yeah, I don't, that plan is not that much. I don't know if you plan to build a building on it or what. You got to make sure that it's proper for you.
Oh, we definitely, I mean, the spot, the area that we were in was very small.
But then you wanted, I know when you wanted that before you wanted to park it, you have to have some parking.
Well, we wanted it originally because we had the building that we wanted the property across the street from.
But then you still need some parking.
But now, but you know what, and I understand all that, but we make so many concessions, and again, I say this, and I never complain, I never put my problems out there. This is to say this, if you could come into my community and put 3 vape shops there, where people can go there 24 hours a day, it should be no problem for someone such as myself to have a facility there that answers the calls and the needs of the children and the residents in Roosevelt. I understand parking, I understand the whole big picture. But just as we make concessions, we need to look at a plan for our community. And I'm one of those people that truly believe that if it's property there that's available, then those that live there and can afford to purchase and put something there viable, why not?
Thank you, Ms. Hunterberg. And if you would just talk to Mr. Bakich offline, maybe you can just work something out. And thank you for your advocacy on behalf of the constituents in your community. Ms. Wells from Hempstead. It looks like it might say Dreamer Wells. Good afternoon.
I just want to say something. Being a veteran, and everybody's talking about veterans. It's sad when you go overseas and you fight for your country, because you believe your country believes in you. And they tell us to be all that we can be. And then when you come back here to the country where you're born from, and they deny you. I'm fighting for a soldier right now who fell off a ship. They had to put a plaque in his brain. And because they don't have no records of it, they can't find his records, they're not helping him. All the stuff that we're talking about here today, if we're not meeting the needs of the people, what are we doing? It's time for us to stop talking and show people. We went through the shelter system. The shelter system are appalling. They don't care about nobody. And then when you come out here, you try to get a life. They want to label you. You go to the Nassau County Medical Center when you need help. They don't care about the soldiers. You know what I told them? Why am I here? Because if I come here and I keep talking about what happened, I'm never going to get healed. And then at some point, I'm going to have to get my limb cut off because it's disease. The psychiatrist looked at me and he said, you know what? You are so smart. How did you figure that out? So are we really helping the people? It's time that we help the people meet the needs of the people where the need is. Talking about it is not good enough. In the Army, we're taught to stand up or take it down. I didn't go overseas and fight for a country to come back here and have to deal with racism. How many soldiers come back here and America's not taking care of them? It's wrong. My friend shouldn't have to go back in there and fight for his benefits. I fight for soldiers now to get their benefits. When America's sitting here living like pigs in a slop and eating like kings and queens, but you got soldiers over here who are dying for a country that never cared about them. So what are we doing at the end of the day? Can everybody go home and sleep and say, oh, I did a good thing? Or should we be looking in the mirror and say, whoa, me, I didn't do my part? We all have a part. But Ken, I want to ask the question today. Are you just sitting here listening to me with your ears, or can you hear me with your heart? Because it's only when you hear me with your heart will things change. I see children out there in the military. They take these Spanish kids and promise them immigration. They don't give them immigration. You know what they do? They take them in, they promise them immigration. They get killed, they bring the dead body back to the mother and tell the mother to bury it. Is that fair, America? So how do you take care of us? When is America going to start taking care of America? When is your motives going to be right for the things you do? Everybody that sits up there in a position of authority, guess what God showed me? He showed me that we're in a time now when people sit in a position of authority but they have no power to change nothing. When are we going to start walking in authority from the heart and serve man? Everybody's up there supposed to serve. I served as a medic in New York City EMS. I worked the 9/11 bombing. I'm the only medic from my team that's still alive. Everybody else's foot is dead. When I went to Section 8 to apply to go back to the boroughs, Ms. Ruiz told me in the office she owned me. I said, do I look like a slave to you? Why was she allowed to say that to me? I'm finished. No more talking.
Thank you for your service. And if you need some help, we can meet with our Veterans Affairs Office and we'll try to get you, we can try to address each problem that you have.
Now, I just want to say one thing, please, and hear me with your heart. I need to move back to the boroughs because I need to have treatment for cancer. Ms. Ruiz told me she owned me. Since when did we get a right telling somebody we own them? I look like a slave to you? And Ms. Ruiz told me that. She told me, I own you. I said, you better take that, her little woman gonna come out and do this. I told you, you better take your fat behind back behind that door. Who gives these people in Nassau County the right to mistreat people? I'm not no slave. She wasn't even born here. I was born here. How does another person from another country come to America and rule America? Who gave them the power and the authority?
I'm sorry that
And I'm sorry, I'm angry. The Bible says be angry but sin not. But I'm sick and tired of seeing the racism. I'm sick and tired of seeing people sit in a position of authority and you don't care about nobody. When are we going to start caring?
People from other countries are dying so that you can come back here and be cute? When do we help the people here? I'm appalled that that woman can say that to me. And all the pastors that I call, they say, oh, I can get your paperwork. Done nothing. So you know what I realized? You're sitting in a position, but you have no power and authority to move in the earth. I'm done.
All right, thank you for your service, and you should not have been spoken to that way, ma'am.
Well, y'all need to deal with them because you know what? The wrong person's gonna come in it one day.
Okay.
The only thing that stopped me
I
was
think,
my
is this
relationship
in
with God.
Nassau County? Where
Miss
did you?
Ruiz, 260 Clinton Street, Hempstead.
Okay.
She told me she owned me. I said my mother named me Kunta, my daddy named me Kitchen. Where did she get the right to say that to somebody?
Thank you. We'll look into that for you.
I'm done.
D. Lorminer?
Good afternoon, board, in all decency and honor. I'm a witness of the humane conversations that we've had since I've been in here for a couple of hours. Thank you for your time. I'm just going to take my notebook out. After listening to that lady, though, I pull out my book, talk about all the cats and the dogs and how well she represented them. I wish I had her to represent humanity.
Well, that was the best comment I've ever received. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to sit here as a person. Thank God for my folks, my mother, Elizabeth Folks, who went on to be with the Lord back in May. It's been very hard on my family. Well, the Department of Housing, Hempstead, 2018, I had to go for recertification, which was at 260 Clinton. And some of you here may knowingly and unknowingly have heard about situations of harassment, demoralization, and finally, termination of whatever housing you currently are awarded by a reputable government and country, also known as the United States of America. Without due process, Rita Lowries, who just before I spoke, another woman came to the mic and shared how she served in the United States of America military and was disrespected by the same individual. And her co-worker, I believe her name is Margaret, came and addressed me, Rita particularly, for my research, sat in front of me. Because of the computer's age, I forwarded all my documents in advance to her. I called her by phone and asked her, did you get all of my documents? Because my appointment with you is tomorrow. Yes, I did. I'll be there tomorrow, thank you. I called my employer to validate that she sent the document that stated how much I earned for the year, according to whatever they had available. She said she sent it to Miss Rita Lowries, and I said, please send me a copy. She sent it to my phone. I said, thank you. When I went to the appointment, Rita stated to me, please show me all your documents. She had a file in front of her, which was my file, and she put it in front of her. She leaned over my file like this, and I said, I forwarded everything to you. You told me you had them all. You're terminated. Please leave my office. I'm a mother of two, a grandmother of 7. I've lived here since 1969. I attended all of the school system since 1969. and I'm currently in school for my RN. I'm a licensed practical nurse for 20 years. It is appalling that people do not respect or appreciate the laws of the land or the people that are in the land. Please address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh,
The night is that you need to go to the Village of Hempstead meeting. It's tonight, okay, at Village Hall. I think it's either 6 or 7 o'clock. They have a meeting there, the village meeting. You sign in and you speak to the people who run the village. And they are in charge of 260. Okay, that's where you need to go.
Melissa Jaffe.
Melissa Jaffe Merrick. On a positive note, I want to thank the board for hiring Ashley as assistant director of the town animal shelter. We are all head over heels with her. She is enhancing every area of the shelter. She is a real team player, and I personally have had several helpful interactions with her. Interesting, we all agree on something finally. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Margaret Castile.
Good afternoon, Margaret Castillo, Hempstead. I was here a month ago, and my friend and I are standing victims, and we were here to discuss some of the issues. But in the past month, we've learned some things that are going on that we want to speak about, that we support, and all of our 1,400 other standing victims that belong to the same group support is the independent study on the Department of Buildings for accountability, efficiency, and transparency. It's really important to us. The main issue was that there was no system in place in the Department of Buildings that was transparent for the victims. And when we would go to the Department of Buildings, we got a runaround show. I was interviewed last week by a reporter, and I said to her, well, I stopped counting at 42 visits. And her mouth opened. She said, you visited the Department of Buildings more than 42 times? I said, I stopped counting at 42. It was horrific, the situation. And I can't even, it was belittling. It was just terrible. But there was, every time I would go, I would go, can you explain why to me? And nobody would ever explain why to me. And the system was, you got this big sheet of paper that said, bring back everything that is relevant to your permit. Well, how do I know what's relevant to my permit? How did I know that I had to have a rat inspection from the Department of Health? I had no idea. So it was a constant, you go and you're like, you're so happy and here's your things, and you didn't bring this back. No, we're not taking your file. And you're running to do that, and nothing is simple. It takes a couple of weeks. You get back, and then, where's this? Nope, come back. Nobody would sit with you. Nobody would make it a process that was systematic and helpful to the homeowners. And we were victims of a disaster, and we're trying to recover. We have families. We have mental issues. We have health issues. And then we have the Department of Building issue, and it was a very, very tough situation. And as I spoke the last time, I said there was only 2 people, Inspector Gumba and the Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Mr. Novella, were the only 2 people in that entire building that treated me with the remote amount of respect. And I'm still going through the process. I'm not done. And I kind of met somebody in the commissioner's office, her name is Diane, also an amazingly helpful person. But that's it, in that entire building that I had gone there probably over 60 times, 3 people treated me with respect and kindness. And I think that's appalling, and I'm not the only person. I think that the study needs to be done. I think that all of the board members need to support that study so that there can be efficiency, that you can gain back the trust from the public. Because nobody has trust in the Department of Buildings if you're a Sandy victim.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Castillo. This is something that I've been pushing for since I think we put the RFP out in February of 2018. We've hit some delays along the way. It took so long to get to the agenda that all the bids had expired, so we had to put it out to RFP again. There was a technicality with the respondent to the bid and something on the application, so it's out to bid again. But I think the responses are due next week, and then we'll be promptly bringing in the respondents to be interviewed, and hopefully this will be on the agenda, I'm hoping by June.
I did ask if the public was going to be part of that. Is there any way that a group of public can be put on?
Absolutely, you should come and be heard on that issue, and you can look for her on the agenda, but we can reach out to you and let you know when it's going to be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Bonnie Salsoni, Lido Beach. I'm in town of Hempstead. I'm a storm victim also, and Margaret's way ahead of me. I haven't even gotten my permits done, anything. I've had a very bad experience with 2 fraudulent contractors, Emil Construction and Alexander Alvarez of Design Concepts. I was also here last month. And I think a study needs to be done about how Consumer Affairs handles these issues. I have been bounced back and forth between Consumer Affairs and the District Attorney. No one's helping me. I was at Consumer Affairs 10 days ago. They told me to go back to the District Attorney. I called the District Attorney. They said they're waiting for complaints from Consumer Affairs. I wrote an email to Consumer Affairs, and they told me that they're not forwarding any complaints because my situation's closed. I need to get up in the air. Every time it rains, my house floods. I have 3 children. I'm a single parent. I lost my husband before the storm. I flooded. I lost my mother after the storm because a bad contractor did erroneous work. My mother fell. She died. And I have just been in this horrible situation since the storm. And the timeline is running out. They want June 1st. New York Rising wants June 1st, everything formal, last inspections. I'm not even up yet. I couldn't handle this. I needed help, and I can't get help anywhere. I'm just at a standstill, and I don't know what to do next. I'm ready to call Governor Cuomo and ask him for a private meeting. I honestly don't know what to do. I could just oh, it's the easiest thing to do, but I have 3 children in this house. I still have mold all over my face. I don't know what to do.
Ms. Sanzone, have you met with Rebecca Sinclair? You have? And I think we know about the issues with your contractor, and I think we have a lot of concerns about this contractor, and we're looking into it, and if appropriate, we may be making referrals about this contractor. I can't really go into more details than that, but we are looking at the situation, and we are reaching out to our colleagues in the state to try to find some additional aid for people who have found themselves still struggling after Sandy.
Supervisor?
Thank you.
We're meeting with the Nassau County Consumer Affairs Department and the County Executive's Office this week to try to get some resolve on these issues.
Thank you.
I would just like to connect the contracted fraud with the Department of Buildings. As I had spoken last month, I said that there was a construction company, Laying Home Improvement, had gotten 9 permits for lifts when they were not allowed to do any. Well, it has come to my attention that they actually got 14. I had done a FOIL and I only received 9, but he had gotten 14 permits to do this work that he was not licensed to do and unqualified to do. And these houses all are in jeopardy of being unsafe structures because he was allowed to do foundation work.
You got the permits for the town of Hempstead?
Correct.
And did you give this information to Ms. Sinclair?
Yes, she has it.
Thank you.
Layiness came through Alexander Alvarez, Design Concepts. Alexander Alvarez brought Layiness into all these people's projects.
Thank you, ladies. I'm sorry for your troubles.
Thank you. Have a nice afternoon.
Janice Blake.
Hello, Janice Blake, Elmont. First, I'd like to say that last couple of weeks ago, I came in with a problem with the cat, sick cat, and it's been resolved, and I got the cat back, and everything is great. So thank you very much for that. And I would like to know if the board has received the financial audit for the shelter, and what is the board's response on that?
We have gotten a draft audit of the shelter, and we expect that it's going to be finalized by the controller's office. I don't know, do you know the time frame for that?
We have until the 9th of May to comment on the draft, and then it'll become final after that.
And then it'll be posted.
Thank you. I trap, I'm out there in the wilds doing all this, bringing the cats in and stuff. And from what I understand, the shelter has a year's wait. Like if somebody calls in and says, I have a problem with cats, come and get them. And the shelter says, well, we'll put you on the list, but it's going to be a year till we get there. So, you know, in a year, cats can multiply. I mean, it could be another 20 or whatever. And my thought was, you know, why don't you hire me as a contractor to go out to these places that call in and get the cats? I mean, that's just like, you know. And then they're like, oh yeah, well they're not going to hire you because they're not going to come up with the money to do that. And I'm like, well, who do I talk to? And they said, well, you got to go to the board, blah, blah, blah. So here I am. That's just an idea that I had, you know,
Good idea.
to get this solved, because there was an article in the New York Times where Australia is killing cats by the truckload. They killed at least 2,000 in the outback because they are basically eating the indigenous population and unbalancing everything. Just feral cats, you know, just breeding out of control, which is actually happening on Long Island as well. There was a guy named Ranger Rick, I believe, and he goes hiking. And the first year there was 1 tick, and then the second year there's 2 ticks, and then 3 ticks, and then the tick population is also out of control. So then he asked himself, why are there so many ticks? So what happens is there's these little birds called quails. If you're a hunter, you know what quails are. They just kind of roam around in the ground and try to stay away from predators. Well, what's happening is the feral cats are have eaten all the quails. So the quails eat the ticks. So there's no quails around to eat the ticks because the feral cat population is exploding. So which brings me back to my original point is, let's get these cats off the street. I had a friend who, she has cats in her backyard. She's like, oh, another one of my cats got run over today. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, what a way to go. You know, there's no way for a cat to live, anybody to live. So, that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Burke. Bonnie sounds so nice. She just spoke. Okay, that's it. Everybody have a nice day. That concludes today's town board meeting.